Crazy weekend, to say the least. I guess I should also start this off first by reminding everyone that if you are looking for a non-custodial exchange where you could purchase Bitcoin and send it directly to self-custody, Bitcoin Well is your one-stop shop. Feel free to hop on over to bitcoinwell.com, use promo code podcast, and you'll get some additional Wishing Well points to use to earn some free Bitcoin. And then we will be hosting on, Zach, is it Friday or Thursday with Alex Walls?
That is Thursday. That's going to be an early one. It's actually 10 a.m. Eastern. We're going to be talking about entropy and randomness, why it matters for your keys. It's going to be a deep dive into how you can be secure with your Bitcoin wallets, regardless of what wallet you're using. You know, things you could have done to be safe, even if you did use a Coldcard, and how entropy works. It will be an interesting time. Come join us.
Nice. Well, on that topic, I first want to thank you, Hoddle, for joining us again. I had an absolute pleasure reading your kind of breakdown, the paranoid wallet of what happened with Coldcard. If you have not checked that out, I would highly recommend our listeners to take a look at this. If you have not had a chance to watch our interview with Pete Rizzo on the Bitcoin Well podcast, I'll also pin that as well so people can check that out. But we at Bitcoin Well, we're here to help. If you are trying to still figure it out, if your funds are still on the Coldcard or any of its products, please feel free to reach out to us. Either shoot our main handle a DM, feel free to reach out to Infinite at bitcoinwell.com. Complimentary, we will help you guys get your self-custody situation sorted and move forward. But Hoddle, I do appreciate you hopping back on. I know we will only have you for a little bit of time here. Obviously, the 110 split, if you will, has begun. I do want to kind of like get your initial thoughts of how you felt it has played out. Are you happy? And if you can kind of just high level explain to everyone what has happened since the Saturday fork.
Thank you, Q. And thanks for shouting out the Coldcard article. I think it should be of interest to all Bitcoiners, regardless of their stance on Bitcoin 110. My take on what played out and the road ahead. I mean, Bitcoin 110 did not get any miner support to talk about. Personally, I kind of expected it. Wasn't too optimistic in my heart of hearts on getting support from majority miners or hash rate on Bitcoin. So as I see it right now, I mean, it seems very much like there will be a POW change that will further the Bitcoin 110 chain. And on that topic, I already see arguing going on out on X, or narratives, so to say, from some people in the Bitcoin 110 camp already starting this, what is the real Bitcoin and stuff. I just want to say that I'm ever going to start arguing about that. As far as I'm concerned, BTC will remain Bitcoin. I don't think this fork shall hold that name. Mostly, I mean, in my opinion, it's going to be the chain that most or best represents how Bitcoin was 5 years ago. And the very idea that made me a ride or die Bitcoiner for a long time and make certain sacrifices because I believed in that idea. But I'm just not fired up or I don't believe in it anymore, because to me, and this is my personal opinion, I feel that the ethos is gone and there has been broad capture of the culture, of the development process, the governance of core. I see huge mining pools that obviously are talking together. And this was kind of the nail in the coffin for me. So I will be happy to, if this new chain what shall I say, happens the way I hope it does, if the POW change works, if it's, I mean, that alone is like a very difficult thing to pull off smoothly. We will see, but I mean, that's where my enthusiasm and you know, I was always here to separate money from state for sovereignty and decentralization. And as I said, I don't see that in BTC anymore. So that's sad, of course, but it's not like it suddenly happened yesterday. It's dawned on me slowly over time. So yeah, I don't know if that answered your question.
No, it does to an extent, and I will, Wicked, call on you. Thank you for coming and joining and raising your hand. I'm so proud of you today, Wicked. Thank you for doing that. I guess first, before Wicked, I hand it to you, Hoddle, if you can kind of just explain to me, like, again, I'm the non-technical person here. When you say like a proof of work change, like, is that strictly for the idea of not allowing the quote unquote spam and introducing this filter to the code? Or what does that proof of work change entail in your eyes?
I mean, there are a couple of things there. One thing is, if the situation, if any individual's belief in what Bitcoin is and how it should function is not respected by the miners, that individual person will consider that miner a dishonest miner. So one part of it is firing the miners, firing the mining cartels and the like freeing this new chain from that infrastructure. And the other side of it, as far as I see it, is, I mean, this new chain would obviously be just a sitting duck for very easy 51% attacks under SHA-256. Yeah.
Wicked, you have waited patiently. I will turn it to you.
Sure. So, I mean, I see it rather different from the lens that I see it from, and this is kind of how I've always felt since I first started paying attention to Luke and him trying to push filters, and then that going into, you know, the campaign against V30, right? Which then led to the pushing of the soft fork, and now we're kind of in the end game, which is the pushing of the hard fork. From the very start, I thought it was a misguided narrative, right? It wasn't a solution that was going to work if you just sat down and thought through it for a second. So it was largely ignored by the technical community who basically saw like all 4 steps down the line, right? You have receipts of tweets from back in like 2023, 24, a year ago, basically just gaming it out and telling people that were arguing about this on Twitter, this is going to end in a soft fork. This is going to end in a hard fork, right? You can't stop this at the policy layer. There's zero reason to think you could. And then it just all kind of played out in precisely those ways. So when it got to the V30 debate around the large op return, the data carrier size update, I think for Core in particular, that was kind of the crescendo, right? Like before that, it was Luke and the people he had convinced that it was a problem with not stopping inscriptions, right? Because they didn't want to merge his inscription bug fix. And even that, if they had merged it, it wouldn't have been effective for obvious reasons. We can talk about them if you want, but I think most people know by now why it wouldn't have been effective. And then it just kind of, you know, like the pot boiled, narratives got stronger, right? I think things got a little bit more heated. And the V30 thing, I think, pushed a lot of people over the edge, but not for the right reasons. I think that they had been convinced for the wrong reasons why it was a problem, right? A lot of people who are opposed to Core and the changes they made in V30 with the data carrier size enabling the larger op returns by default, at least on the relay layer. They thought that that update was enabling more spam, right? Or enhancing or making spam more efficient. But that's simply not true. Spam was already much more efficient in other means, right? Even spam not in the inscription envelope would have been more efficient. Even spam that was routing around the new BIP110 rules would have been more efficient than the large op return, thing that people were saying was going to be a problem. So at the end of the day, it was just like it was a baseless narrative that got people fired up for no reason. And because I see it that way, I actually commend Core for ignoring you guys. Like, it's actually super bullish to me that Core is able to discern what is a real argument and what is not, and not waste their time arguing with people who don't know what they're talking about. That's actually extremely bullish, because if it wasn't the case, I would actually be pretty concerned that our lead protocol developers are wasting their time arguing with people who don't really matter and don't have a place in a technical conversation, right? That would be a very easy avenue to attack these developers' time and to waste their time. And as you know, I think we all agree where we want to head with this project. We want it to be more widely adopted. We want it to remain decentralized. We want it to work better as money, right? We want it to scale to more people in a trust minimized way. We all have these aligned goals. And if you look at what Core is doing, aside from the myopic, magnified change to the op return, everything else they've been working on recently has been to achieve those goals and to do them in ways that are still maintaining all of the other things that they're trying to maintain, like the decentralization and ease of running a node.
I do
When you get myopic, you ignore those other things, right? You're basically just admitting that you aren't paying attention. On the last debate we had, I talked about all the things that have been updating, right? I don't know if you went off and looked them up. You probably should if you haven't, because they're pretty useful things that they've been adding, all policy changes over the past, 3, 4, 5 versions. All policy changes that make second layers more efficient, possible, and are actually building Bitcoin out for a future where it's money for way more people. So I'm not convinced at all that Core is trying to not make Bitcoin better money. The evidence suggests the opposite. They are laser focused on making it better money. And you guys tried to distract them from that shit. You guys are the ones who are trying to make Bitcoin worse money. You guys are the ones who are doing a proof of work change now, which is going to make Bitcoin weaker. Your Bitcoin weaker, I should say. That's what you guys are doing. That's bad money. The real Bitcoin is stronger than ever and going forward and becoming better money still. So I don't understand when you guys come with these allegations that Core is trying to do this or that, but you completely ignore everything they're actually doing.
I'm going to cut you off, Wicked, for a second. Portland, I see you in the crowd. I have invited you. Please come up. Please come and join this discussion.
I would love to have a small reply to that very long,
go for it.
Everything went towards me, so it's nice if I
go for it.
Thanks. First of all, I think the main thing I want to say is Wicked switched between saying declaring things as if they were true and my opinion, which we need to be a little precise here. He basically called the whole 110 thing a baseless narrative. And that is very fair that is his opinion. It wasn't my opinion, and it still isn't my opinion. I'm just, representing myself. I'm one node, one individual making my voice heard, my opinions. And I don't care if that gives me a lot of shit back. I mean, that's fine. And for me, the time to say the things I've said was now. It's not like, as I said, this all dawned on me in one big moment. It's been gradual, and this was the time. I kind of, it was the line for me. And in any decentralized system, I think this is how everything is supposed to work. So I don't agree with Core, that Wicked applauds Core for ignoring 4-1 opposition because it was baseless narrative. I mean, I don't think that's like an appeal to authority, in my opinion. And I really don't understand. Like, I think that's my initial statement or whatever he in here said. I'm not fighting about what happens in BTC right now. So, the narratives, I'm fine. Have the narrative that Core has made Bitcoin better money the last 5 years. I don't agree with it. I think the opposite. But the thing here for me is that's what I'm saying. I'm not gonna argue about anything in BTC anymore. Like, I mean, I'm out of that discussion because I don't have faith in it in any change anymore. So it would be nice if, especially since I'm not gonna engage in any type of saying that other things is Bitcoin. I think that's not smart. I mean, I don't think it's even true on most metrics. And I would never dream of telling someone that another chain is Bitcoin. And, that's what the bad actors in BSV and Bcash did, that ended up losing a lot of people a lot of money. And I don't want to advise anyone on their financial decisions. Yeah, I think that was the most important things I wanted to say.
I do want to just kind of ask you something, Hoddle, because this has bothered me, and I feel like whenever I've brought this up, I have not felt like I've gotten a satisfactory answer. I agree with what you're saying, that I am in Bitcoin because of the separation of state and money. I wholeheartedly believe that is my North Star to what Bitcoin is meant to be. It is birthed out of the great financial crisis of 2008. It was literally designed because Satoshi saw issues with the way money was created, used, and printed ad nauseum. Where I have a hard time with BIP110 is this idea that it introduces a form of censorship. And while maybe today, right now, that censorship aligns with your values, how can it not then be captured in the future in the very way that you say or believe that miners and core developers are captured?
Did I understand you correctly that you're asking me how I can be sure that this new chain will not be captured in the future?
Exactly.
I mean, I can't. Not at all. No way. And I think for me personally, the main lesson for the last 10 years in Bitcoin is that I think an idea like Bitcoin needs to be constantly fought for, and people need to do uncomfortable things to stand up for the ethos that they believe in. And yeah, so the answer is I in no way think that the new chain automatically remains uncaptured.
Wicked, go ahead.
I'm curious, do you think Truck makes Bitcoin better money? Just like a very simple question.
I didn't catch it. Truck?
Yeah, TRUC. An update that Core made to Bitcoin recently.
I don't know that
Core client, I should say.
anything about that update, so I can't answer.
Okay. Well, I think it did. How about Pay to Anchor, Package Relay, Ephemeral Dust, Cluster Mempool, any of those you're familiar with? You think those made Bitcoin better money?
I mean, what I do know is that the main improvements Core has made, and I mean, you tell me a lot of very impressive sounding words there for these different improvements and proposals. And that's a very classic method of making trying to, make an argument or trying to make someone sound ignorant. I've never claimed that I'm a developer. I was a developer. I worked as a developer for several years. I do understand code to a certain level. But I don't think that's, throwing out all those names and asking me if I think those made Bitcoin better money. The main things Core did is all this L2 stuff, as well as mempool stuff. And the sum of that seems to be to try to move towards like a homogeneous mempool. And I think that's bad for Bitcoin. That's one thing.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not trying to do any sort of tactics here. I'm just, because you have strong opinions about one specific update to their policy, and then have drawn the conclusion that because of that update and maybe some other things, it's like your thoughts around them, participating in cultural DEI bullshit, right?
That's fair. That's fair.
Because of those things, you're drawing the conclusion that they're making Bitcoin worse money, right?
Not based on that. That was based on spending basically 3 months of my life digging into this and digging into the governance.
And wait, okay, so the governance aspect, but not the technicals.
Wicked, you know the rules.
We're going back and forth.
No,
go ahead.
It's not like sitting, reading code in depth that has made me not believe in Core anymore, or not believe in Core's independence anymore. It is the 3 articles I wrote and all the things I learned about how governance of Core works, how recruitment to Core works, and how the politics inside the Core works. That's why.
But don't you also, if you're talking about them making Bitcoin better money, you're trying to analyze whether that is the case, shouldn't you spend like 30 minutes just seeing what they're working on technically to see if it's actually making Bitcoin better money or not? It's not hard, right? Anyone can take an LLM and literally just say, what kind of updates did Core make over the past 2 years? And are those updates attempting to make Bitcoin better money or not? And literally in 30 minutes, you could read through that and know everything that I just talked about. It's not that hard.
Yeah, you frame it. This is very strong framing. I know, obviously, Core's policy direction, and just the up return thing on its own, to see this level of resistance to community opinion on a topic which is so central to what Bitcoin is, like preserve it as a monetary protocol. And you can just tell me as many L2 use case facilitating different new activity on Bitcoin proposals and shit they released, but I don't agree with all this L2 facilitation and relativization of what shall be on the blockchain as improving Bitcoin as money. That's the core thing here.
So you are now opposing the views that most of the community had back in 2016, 17, when we didn't scale with large blocks? Like, how are we going to scale at this point, in your opinion, if it's not through L2s?
Not by allowing JPEGs on the chain.
Sorry, say that again.
We are not going to scale by facilitating JPEGs on the blockchain.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's facilitating JPEGs on the blockchain. I think that is actually one of the narratives, which is fake news.
And then you didn't read the capture series because I document how that facilitation happened.
Yeah, I think your capture series is highly, highly biased through the lens.
Well, it's not theory since everything is sourced, right?
Oh, it is biased since you're not actually looking through the actual updates they're working on primarily. You're just picking little tiny things and then saying, when I bring up other things, that's not what I'm focused on. I'm focused on governance.
I'm linking everything, and anyone can follow any of those links and read the whole PRs themselves and all the communication that happened inside of them.
I know. You're agreeing with me that you had a myopic view.
No.
You didn't round it up, right? A good journalist, if they're actually trying to answer the question, is Bitcoin Core attempting to make Bitcoin better money or to facilitate shitcoins and spam? you would probably go through and look at all of the updates they're supposed to be working on or have been working on and determine which ones are actually facilitating one or the other. Instead, you took a myopic view and latched on to one or two things which you interpreted as being facilitating spam, which really weren't, because you probably didn't take into consideration the arguments made against that, and you just focused on the ones made for it. So, I mean, I think your pieces are just hit pieces. Like, they're not well-rounded. They don't have good sourcing of all the views, and they don't have good sourcing of the actual things that have gone into core to make Bitcoin better money. And this is part of the psyop, right? Like, when you focus on those things and you push out these articles that don't have well-rounded, well-rounded arguments and facts around everything in core, then you're just pushing the narrative further. Like, you're part of the problem, Hoddle or not.
Yeah, it's just rich to accuse me of running with a psyop, like one individual researching things and writing. Now, stop interrupting me.
You got psyoped and then you just pushed it further.
So you can't stop
You're
interrupting.
not listening.
Jesus Christ. Yeah. I mean, am I allowed to talk to you?
Yes, just as a reminder, the rules of the stage are we let everyone finish and then go. I'm going to bring Shinobi on. Shinobi, before I bring you on, those are the rules. I control the mute button today.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I mean, all of this is kind of like a little bit weird, the questions I'm getting, because, I mean, you guys should be celebrating, and you are celebrating, I guess. And yeah, that's fine. I'm just expressing
why should we be celebrating? We didn't do anything. We just watched
Hodl.
Bitcoin do Bitcoin.
Hodl.
Respect the rules, Hoddle.
Sorry.
Oh, we just lost Hodl not too. You scared him away. Well,
All I said was that we weren't I wasn't celebrating. I thought it was entertaining, but I wasn't celebrating. There's nothing to celebrate.
Okay, well,
nothing happened.
Well, I do also want to introduce Knut back to the stage. I do appreciate you coming and joining us. I don't know if you have been able to hear some of what Hodlnaut has spoken about, if you agree with what he has been saying, or what your feelings have been since Saturday's split.
Yeah, thanks for having me on again. Yeah, I can make a little opening statement here, hopefully uninterrupted. I am not of the same opinion as Hodlnaut on some of these things. I didn't hear what he said here, but I have seen his tweets and stuff. And yeah, I went to bed on Saturday and woke up on Sunday quite optimistic and happy. And I'll tell you why. I think Bitcoin is in a concerning state. However, I don't think it's in a. I don't think Bitcoin is dead. I think we have more battles ahead of us, and that we ought to fight them. And I still think that BIP110 would have been good for Bitcoin. I did what I could to make this thing happen, but at the end of the day, one out of two things happened. Either the conspiracies are all right and Bitcoin is now overtaken by a cabal of miners and compromised developers and whatnot, or we simply did not have enough economic weight in our movement to make the user-activated soft fork happen. I do believe that miner-activated soft forks, or small user-activated soft forks, can work if you get the first game theory domino to fall over. However, we did not have enough economic weight to do that this time. That was unfortunate, because if it would have activated, basically no one would have left. And now instead we are at risk at losing some of our best warriors. I will probably lean to the latter. I think Bitcoin is not overtaken by, I still think plebs are in charge, that we just need to be more coordinated to make our voices heard the next time. I still think Bitcoin is for permissionless money, and not permissionless anything else. I still think being conservative in development of the protocol going forward is better than trying to facilitate stable coins on Bitcoin and all of this bullshit that does not make the Satoshi a better unit of account. So I see my role going forward as saving whoever can be saved from hopping onto a chain that is almost certainly doomed to be so small that it's even more prone to capture than the legacy chain. So I will stick with Bitcoin. I will choose humble pi instead of double down pi. At least that's my thoughts for now. And I hope I'm welcome back in the community. I never said anything. I never based any of these decisions on what I supported or not on allegations. I never based it on predicted outcome. I made my decisions supporting this, believing that it was the best thing to do for Bitcoin. And I will continue to do so going forward. Hopefully I can talk sense into some of the people and see that we may have lost the battle, but we have more battles in front of us and more important battles, and stick around so that we will win them. I see a lot of thumbs going up. I see a lot of hearts. I also see a lot of laughing faces, and you're all welcome to like, subscribe, and brush your teeth and enjoy more pleb slop, because I have no intention of stopping producing the most entertaining pleb slop out there. So if you still enjoy that, I hope that you will all celebrate Bitcoin Infinity Day with me here in 11 days. So that's my opening statement. That's where my mind is at this moment. And I will talk to the people in my camp and see what I can do, because I don't think Bitcoin deserves to lose so many good ethical people that were on this side. Both sides had good and bad people. I also believe that BIP110, the attempt was a net positive overall. We now have 5,000 more node runners. That's good for the network. We've also got a lot of receipts. We can see. I believe that only true cunts can experience arrogasms. And I have seen a lot of arrogasms on Twitter, and therefore I draw the conclusion that these people are cunts, and I can now block them without blinking. Regardless of what side they were on, people show their true colors in a battle like this. And I am here for civil discourse and a civil debate, and ethical, independent-minded people trying to get along. Someone once said that getting Bitcoiners to get along is like herding cats. I think that's a very good way of putting it. At the end of the day, though, I do respect those who hop onto another chain, because the most crucial thing here is that at its deepest level, Bitcoin is built on people doing whatever they want and running whatever software they want on whatever hardware they want. And if Bitcoin is one thing to you, you can totally do that and totally call your coin Bitcoin. The thing is, if you choose the wrong chain, it will cost you very much. And if you choose the chain that everyone else tolerates, then you have a lot to gain from that. So picking the right side in these battles is a question of finance, of course, a question of. What I'm trying to say here is that picking the wrong chain will cost you dearly. However, you are still, at the most fundamental level, allowed to do that. You decide whatever rules you want for your money, the money you're willing to use. And if you're willing to use legacy Satoshis, or if you're willing to use BIP110 Satoshis, that's up to you. But you will have to personally take all the responsibility and all the consequences for choosing one over the other. But here's an extended hand, and I'm not choking on humble pie, because I don't believe I did very much anything wrong here, really. But yeah, I'm tasting the humble pie anyway. So hello, guys.
Knut, as obviously the leader of all of Bitcoin, I will speak on behalf of every Bitcoiner in the world and appreciate the apology. But I will turn it over to Brian Trolls to start off the conversation here. hopefully as respectfully as Knut has been.
Just before that, I'd like to say to Brian Trolls, because I've had one really good conversation with him in person in Amsterdam about Radiohead albums. And I am looking forward to hearing.
Dude, I have something like actually serious to say.
Yeah. But let me just preface this, because I have recorded an album and I think you're gonna like it. And I know that you're one of the few people in the world who will give me an absolutely honest answer if it sucks or not. So I'm looking forward to showing you that. That's the only thing I want to say. Over to you.
So I came up here to respond directly to something Hoddle said, and I hope he just had connection issues and just didn't run away because he's too much of a coward to actually have this conversation face to face, air quote. But he made the claim that his journalist article series is factual because he cited things. So let's break down a specific instance of something he cited and just completely lied about and inverted the entire situation from reality and how he portrayed it to people that I have been consistently calling him out on since that was published at the start of this year. And he's just been pretending like these criticisms don't exist. So it's related to two PRs that Amiti made interacting with how nodes communicate other nodes' IP addresses. Now, this is a message on the networking protocol that's spec'd, like it's a defined behavior. And it's essentially just a list of new nodes' IP addresses that your node periodically sends to other nodes on the network so that everybody has a deep view of the network and peers they can connect to if they go offline and come back online again. So these PRs were literally just a change to what nodes you send those messages to try to pick nodes that will spread it further and faster through the network, and to prevent sending or picking a node to send this message to that's running in compact block mode because they're not going to relay it the same. So it's kind of wasting sending that message if your goal is to get it to as many nodes on the network as possible. So two developers, John Attack and Vasil, started getting very antagonistic, accusing Amiti of changing the semantics of this message. In a development context, the semantics of something like this is its meaning. Like, what is it doing? What is it for? This message's purpose is for sharing other nodes' IP addresses. Nothing about either of those PRs changes that, has some new meaning to it, adds some new different thing beyond just storing those IPs and maybe forwarding them that any node out there does with it. Nothing about the semantics of this message was changed. And they started a bunch of drama over these PRs that Vladimir, the lead maintainer of Core at the time, got dragged into and kind of reiterated their criticism of this changing message semantics, that was not happening. No semantics of this message were changed at all. And Peter Wulla calmly breaks this down in a massive page-long post in the discussion that Hoddle cites, but conveniently leaves out of his article and is the one material thing in that discussion he just conveniently doesn't mention, doesn't allude to, doesn't link to, or acknowledge in any way whatsoever. That Vasil, Vladimir, and John are just wrong. That they actually completely and wildly misinterpreted what these PRs were doing and essentially spurred out and started a shit fit over it, antagonizing other developers. That's the factual reality. How does Hoddle not portray this? As Amiti and her mentor, Jonathan Newberry at the time, nefariously trying to push through PRs that change the semantics of what this message and the peer-to-peer protocol is doing. And John and Vasil and Vlad valiantly defending it. It's a completely delusional narrative that is the exact opposite of what factually happened. And I have been pointing this out to him for 6 months now, while he does not even acknowledge that, let alone actually correct what he has written and published on this matter. So for him to stand up here and just say that what he's written is unassailable fact because he has cited things is the most offensive, embarrassing, and laughable fucking thing on earth. I do not consider myself a journalist. I consider myself more of a researcher and a technical writer. But that claim is fucking insulting to actual journalists. What he has done and written is in no universe even remotely close to something that you can call journalism with any fucking honesty.
Even if, hey guys, even if Hodl makes one mistake, do you miss?
No, that's not one mistake. That is a massive error. His
Guys, I gotta go. Sorry, but I really have to leave. I'm not bailing because I'm too scared to leave, to stay. But I have to go. Sorry. Bye.
Well,
So then you got to ask yourself why? Why ignore Shinobi and not look back at what you wrote and fix it?
And that's just
that's the
one
question
thing.
I have.
That's one thing. He also falsely claimed that the data carrier size option restricted all forms of data embedding. That's factually untrue in his third article. Luke is actually the reason why it only covered op return. Like Luke argued against Peter Todd, who was pushing for that option to restrict things like raw pub keys too. Luke is the reason that it only covered op return. He lied in the article and claimed that it covered everything originally. And then when called out about that, he quietly edited that out to change the entire argument that article was making with no notice, no fucking update anywhere on that piece that it was edited after the fact. No. All of these pieces are just nonsense. And I personally baselined an AI detector with my own writing that I know is 100% written by a human being, me, and then put all of his pieces through them. They are all at least 50% written by AI. Everything he has written is a complete embarrassment and a joke that makes a mockery out of the idea of presenting objective fact for people to make up their own mind. It is delusional propaganda that outright lies in numerous places.
So I'm just laughing to myself. If anyone is listening to this recording, the person speaking now is the idiot who at the very beginning did compliment Hoddle on his recap of Coldcard. So for any listeners from the beginning or to now, yeah, I'm just gonna, I'll let you keep going. I do want to bring it back though, because at this point
That's it. That's way more than enough to tear that fucking garbage apart.
Well, let's talk about the garbage for a second, because just because somebody gets one fact wrong, do you disagree with the fact that
One fact? Did you not listen to what Shinobi just said?
I did?
Did it sound like Hoddle made one fact wrong, or was it more than one fact? Semantics. That's literally, what are you talking about? That's numbers. Does one not equal? Does one equal 2 today, or does 1 equal 3? Like, Luke, you know that he made more than one mistake, right?
Am I going to get a sentence off without being cut off?
Go ahead.
Luke, the floor is yours.
Yeah, hey guys. I hope you're all well. I popped up because Shinobi mentioned the Hodl series, and I read all 4 bits of it, and I think in total, how many
He only
pages?
wrote 3.
4? There wasn't 4. There was only 3.
Guys,
Can't even get a
you know the
sentence off.
rules.
It's interesting, don't you think?
I will mute mute all of you.
Guys, Luke's not good with numbers. Just let him talk. Continue, Luke. We love you, bro.
I love you too. Yeah. I love open discourses. That's what I love. I mean, I popped up because Shinobi brought up the Hodlonaut series, and like, I'm not saying everything in it's 100% factual, but I mean the thing's hundreds of pages. Just because somebody makes 2 mistakes or even 3 mistakes, Shinobi, maybe he makes 5. You can't really disagree with the broad strokes of what he said. There has been significant turnover in the developers and the maintainers in Bitcoin Core, and them attending Feelings Friday sessions as well as lots of other questionable things should at least make you question who is merging what and who gets a say over what goes in to Bitcoin Core. Because, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I'm not sure if there's many people in here that want NFTs and ordinals and inscriptions on Bitcoin's main chain. And for you to just say, oh, he made 2 mistakes, so we have to throw out the entire 100 pages of what he wrote, it's an interesting statement.
Dude, it's at most maybe like 40, 50 pages. And no, it's not just a fact or two, Luke. It is him like completely deceptively showing a misleading context for every air quote fact that he cites to build a completely fictitious narrative disconnected from fucking reality. I've actually been at one of those fucking weekly meetings at Chain Code. You know what people fucking did? They talked about all the projects that they're fucking working on and the research they're doing and their frustrations with fucking things that are roadblocking them. Actually productive fucking conversations that developers should be having every week when they work together to check in with each other and see what the state of each other's research is. Because, you know, things are useful across fucking silos sometimes. Like Huddle did not just get a thing or two wrong, Luke. He painted an intentionally deceptive and distortionary narrative.
And you fell for it.
Oh, I didn't fall for anything. I mean, I'm just asking questions. That's all I'm doing. I think the idea of just throwing out someone's hundreds of pages of research because they got a couple of things wrong, even 5 things, Shinobi. I don't know. Maybe.
It's not hundreds of pages of research. It's AI slop.
I mean, okay, so I mentioned a couple of specific data points. Was there Feelings Fridays with Bitcoin Core developers and maintainers?
He just told you that he went to one of those and told you what they do there typically.
Did you express your feelings, Shinobi?
Dude, it's like you're not even listening. Like,
Exactly.
are you actually trying to have a conversation with me or just talk at something in your imagination?
No, I mean, like, my broad, the reason why I popped up and just asked some questions is because, like, I can see it very clearly. Like, developers should be chosen on merit. And if they're very inactive.
They were. Like that merit conversation keeps coming up. Like, what has John Attack ever done? Can you go point at a single major subsystem project or a major overhaul that he fucking led? I can point at 2 or 3 Gloria did. Like, what are you talking about? Developers should get in on their fucking merit or not. Luke himself joked that Gloria had no choice to take a maintainer position when she was nominated.
Yeah, it's narratives.
Yeah,
It's narratives
Luke got
all
the
the way
blessing.
down.
Luke gave her the blessing.
A lot of people fell for the narratives because they're easy to fall for, right? And by the way, it's spook tactics. It's all about fucking, causing division, sowing division with these things that don't have actual basis.
So did
Like,
John?
they know that DEI is going to trigger people, right? They know that's going to trigger different people, and they push that narrative, even though there's no evidence for it. And they know the people that it's going to trigger aren't going to go look for the evidence because they don't actually verify shit. You
Luke,
understand?
I've been in this space 13 years. It took me 5 minutes of talking to Gloria in person to be sure personally she was the right fucking call, that she was an incredibly valuable contributor that could have been very valuable to Bitcoin. And a bunch of fucking ignorant pieces of shit and their own stupidity and inability to gauge that type of thing themselves chased her away from this fucking project.
Yes.
That was a loss to this ecosystem.
Yeah, so again, you've been in Bitcoin way longer than me, and you follow it way closer than me. So again, I don't want this to feel like I'm telling you, absolutely everything you're saying is wrong. I'm just asking questions. All I know about Gloria is a couple of video clips that were circulating on Twitter, and she didn't seem like a Bitcoin maximalist.
That's exactly our point.
But I mean,
I
she
don't give
said
a
it.
shit
That's
that
like, that's
she's a
not fake,
Bitcoin
what she
maximalist.
said.
She understands the technology. She made massive
blockchain?
improvements to the technology
Blockchain
that
or
helped
Bitcoin?
Bitcoin layer 2s work. If you are up here and you do not understand package relay, you do not understand the mess that the mempool logic was before the work Gloria did and the nightmare edge cases that created for financial layer 2s, then you have no business being up here talking about her competence or lack of it, like at all.
Never said that.
Wait,
Just asking
hang on,
questions.
hang on.
And here's
I'm
Matt.
gonna mute.
Here's
All right, cool. I'm muting you all because we're forgetting the rules. I am the professor. We raise hands. Everyone speaks one at a time. I am going to ask a question. Matt, thank you for joining the stage. It will go to you after I ask my question to Shinobi, because I don't know these things. Can you help explain for the novice technical person that I am what these contributions that Gloria did and how they help in layer 2?
the mempool logic before where we are at now with cluster mempool was a nightmare, where the logic for whether to add a transaction to a full mempool and what to kick out were completely screwed and out of sync and just working from totally different pictures, totally different internal logic. And it created a mess of fucked up situations where you could propagate things that are more profitable for miners, but nodes will evict it and never relay it to them. Like the whole logic of being ironclad, sure, I pay more in the fee, that gets to the miner and gets included, was broken. And the entire logic of layer 2s depends on you being able to pay that higher fee and get your shit confirmed now when you have to, so that your money stays secure and doesn't get stolen. All of the work that Gloria did was like smoothing out those types of problems and making them work more correctly, be simpler to reason about, and lay the groundwork for what Peter and Suhas just did, releasing Cluster Mempool.
I'm not disagreeing with any of that, Shinobi. Again, my question is more of a 10,000-foot high-level question. Do we want people working on Bitcoin, very high-level developers and maintainers who don't hold Bitcoin? They're not Bitcoin maximalists. They're actively anti being a Bitcoin maximalist, and they've got a history in blockchain and crypto.
I don't care. Yes, Bitcoin maximalists are morons.
How do you know how many Bitcoin
I
someone is
think we've
holding?
pretty much come to the same conclusion at this point.
You are threading a line again.
But go to Matt. Go to Matt, though. He's actually building on the work that Gloria did.
Yeah, I can confirm, if you can all hear me well, that the work that Gloria did is very important for Second and building ARC. It's invaluable, the work that she did. And I think that is solid. One thing that the reason I came on to request to speak is because it was something Luke was saying, that all he knows about Gloria is from a couple of video clips. Like, you have to see it that this whole BIP110 army, like, the only content that they're consuming is Matthew Crowder YouTube videos. Their entire conception about what the Bitcoin developer community is comes from, like, a YouTube. Like, that's all they know. That's all they're presented. They don't see the other side. They haven't been to the Chain Code office. They don't know about the Bitcoin OpTech podcast. They're not looking up what all the work that all these people are doing. And then they come and want to interface with you saying, how come this person deserves to be there? Where's my take? Where's my share? And then there's this subculture of Bitcoin maximalism, eating red meat, living off grid. This is a different community than the developer community, which extends all the way back to Satoshi himself. Like, even Shinobi mentions, Peter and Suhas, right? It's like these people have no idea who they are or that they've been relevant for a decade, right? Like, these are critical things that I think the community should be open to learning. And if they're not interested in learning those things, they just want to do the gotcha journalism, then, like, stop feeding that, stop giving attention to it. Like, nothing productive there. That's my thoughts.
Well, guys, I have to bounce. So,
Luke, I have a question for you before you, if you can humor me.
I will answer your question, Q, directly. But I mean, I've asked a lot of questions here, and I haven't got a direct answer. That's kind of why I'm going to bounce in a second.
I
But
literally said, yes, we should have people who aren't Bitcoin maximalists or don't hold Bitcoin as developers. I don't care. I just want Bitcoin to work better. I literally directly answered that.
yeah,
So-
I mean, and that's I'll get to you in a second, Q, because I got a short answer for Shinobi. I mean, and that's half the reason I'm going to bounce, because I don't dismiss your answer. I just think ideologically we're coming from different standpoints, so there's no reason to argue about specific examples and semantics and zoom in on the little stuff, because on the big stuff I just disagree, and that's fine. That's not and it's fine that we both disagree. I just think Bitcoin maximalists should be working on Bitcoin Core. They should hold Bitcoin. They shouldn't be shitcoiners and crypto guys. And I just think ideologically that's how we make Bitcoin better. But Q, you wanted to ask me a
Where are
question.
their PRs?
Yes. Hang on.
Real quick, then maybe Bitcoin maximalists.
Nope. I want to ask a question. I appreciate you, Shinobi, but I am asking this one. My issue, Luke, with even what you just said is what you are saying is you want to live comfortably in an echo chamber where only those who fully agree and have never strayed off of the righteous path of Bitcoin maximalism can positively contribute to Bitcoin. There's no route to recognizing mistakes that have been made, and there's no additional perspectives that we're willing to kind of analyze, appreciate, and understand. And I think that's a very dangerous ideological stance to take. It is a form of cancel culture that I don't want to participate in. While I do, at the ethos, agree, I am Bitcoin only. I bully clients who call and say, what do you think about Ethereum? What do you think about Ripple? And I laugh and I say, you can buy it all you want. I like to gamble on sports, but I don't treat those as investments. I think there's a larger issue with this idea of purity in the Bitcoin space. And I do think that there should be a path back for people and even a door open for those who want to contribute with a larger understanding of the broader crypto space, so long as their contributions to Bitcoin are focused on Bitcoin. So my question again is, why is it okay to introduce cancel culture? Why should we have this purity test when, if we're all honest with ourselves, at some point or another, many people in the Bitcoin space did go to the dark side, did dabble in shitcoins, did do some mistake. By that logic, we should never listen to Max Kaiser. We should never listen to Robert Breedlove.
Let me answer your question in a short version. If you want the longer version, I can go there, but I think the shorter version is probably quicker and shorter. So I disagree with the framing. I think anybody can come and contribute to Bitcoin and make it better. Like, for example, I was defending British Hoddle for 5 years between 2021 and 2026 when he was saying, buy Bitcoin, Bitcoin is good. People buying Bitcoin is good. Despite any history that British Hodl had before Bitcoin, I was not one of the people who said just because he made a mistake previously, we should cancel him. I even platformed him because he talked about Bitcoin. He talked about ETFs buying Bitcoin. And he was only talking about Bitcoin for 5 years there. And I very publicly disagree with him promoting ETFs now. So I disagree with the framing that I'm some cancel culture, red meat eating psychopath. I disagree with that. Anybody could come and work on Bitcoin. But if they're crypto and blockchain guys, I want them to make Bitcoin better money. I don't want them to jam inscriptions, NFTs, ordinals, and be apologists for making Bitcoin a data storage platform. That's the short answer of my question. I'm not saying Gloria has not done work on Bitcoin, but I just disagree with NFTs and inscriptions being accepted and welcomed into Bitcoin because it doesn't make Bitcoin better money. It makes it harder to run a node.
I agree with what you're saying. I too think NFTs, inscriptions are dumb, but I do not think that you nor I should have the ability to tell people what they can and cannot do if the marketplace decides that that is something that people are willing to pay for. That's where I think you and I disagree. at our core, we all of us on this stage, everyone listening wants the same thing. We want Bitcoin to be better money than anything we have on the face of the earth. But how we get there varies from person to person, and what we believe. I should not push on my beliefs onto you, nor you onto others. I believe the market should dictate these terms and what happens.
As do I. And I appreciate you guys giving me the platform. If anyone wants to hit me with one last question before I have to bounce, you're welcome to. I appreciate you trying to answer my questions.
Luke, here's a final comment then.
Okay.
If you think that Bitcoin maximalists should contribute to core and steer the direction Bitcoin goes in, here's an idea. Get them to pull their heads out of their asses and learn how it actually works so they can do that.
And that's honestly a great comment. And I don't disagree with that. I think again, I don't have a side. I'm not mining BIP110. I'm running knots. I'm kind of more in the middle, just asking questions about this. But I agree, Shinobi. Bitcoiners running knots should learn to code, bro. They should learn to code. I agree. I don't disagree with that.
Like, dude, developers don't work for you. They don't work for me. Like, we don't pay them, dude. If you want something done, then you have two choices. You can either pay developers to do it for you, or you can roll up your sleeves and do it yourself. But none of us sign these people's paychecks. None of us get
BlackRock
to tell
does.
them what to do with their time.
Well, BlackRock does now. BlackRock and Coinbase.
No. Dude, go actually look at these organizations, dude. Almost all of them are no strings attached. Here's a time frame. Here's your payment during that time frame. Go work on something. And they either renew it or not based on whether it's seen as productive or worthwhile. There are almost no strings to any of these fucking organizations except ones that actually full-time employ people. And those are still insane degrees of freedom where developers who are actually competent can essentially work on whatever they want as long as there is actually some value produced there.
I won't open another rabbit hole, but I won't open another rabbit hole. But I was just referring to the recent 15 million donation to Bitcoin developers. Again, it's not a donation. We can call it what it is. But BlackRock, Coinbase, and others are donating $15 million to developers. So I think that's what I was referring to.
Yeah, to work on quantum research, which a lot of people are doing anyway and would do anyway. And hey, guess what? They should be getting paid while doing that so that they don't have to spend less time on it and go earn money some other way. Again, look at how these things are structured. They are almost all no strings attached. Somebody proves their competence, they get funding, and there is a great degree of freedom for them to just work on the things they think will improve Bitcoin, which is what all of them have been doing for the most part, with very few exceptions, for almost, 17 years now? 18 years? Like, dude, and all of this shit is right there in public. Like, how do you think I know these things? How do you think I have learned these things? Because it is all right there, an open book in public that literally anybody can look at. I'm not a developer. I just look at the shit that they're doing because I can, and I learn.
I think the biggest problem for many people is they don't actually look at the information that's out there. They hear a narrative, or they see a clip, and then they form an opinion. And they don't actually see the context which the clip came from, or the full document which a narrative was spun from. They don't actually verify where these things are coming from and if they were taken out of context, right? Or if there's more to the story. I think the other problem is that now with AI, if you're not careful with how you prompt things, you can introduce a great deal of bias. And so you might take a document and without reading it yourself, ask the AI, how is this document being used to promote shitcoins? And of course, it's going to tell you, it will find a reason to tell you how it's being used in whatever way you ask it. But what people need to get better at is having the AI help them prompt it itself in an unbiased way. So if you're trying to get answers to a question, you have to learn how to ask the question in an unbiased way so that you actually get a real answer and you don't bias the results that you're getting. This is what we call AI hallucination. It will tell you whatever you're looking for if you ask it in a particular way. And you know this, right? You can literally ask anything about anything and it will fucking spin a narrative for you. So, I mean, I think that's one of the biggest problems now is, people, if they're even willing to verify things, not through reading things themselves, but just speaking to an AI to help them digest things, even then they can have very, very biased results because they're not actually doing it in a way that's getting to the truth. They're doing it in a way that is confirming their biases that they had when they came into the question. Did that not make sense to you, Luke? Are you laughing because it's true?
My connect's bad.
I got you.
Matt, go ahead, please.
One note before I sign off is about what Luke is saying, that Bitcoin developers should be coming from this subculture of Bitcoin maximalists who eat the red meat and so on, and they have certain political views. This subculture is relatively recent in the grand scheme of Bitcoin from its origins. Bitcoin developers were not red eating meat. This is all like a Twitter thing that's like much more recent than Bitcoin itself. And look at the people who are the actual contributors to Bitcoin Core and then ask what is their origin story? Why does this interest them? What brought them to this? It's probably not the same overlap. Everybody comes to Bitcoin for their own reason. You can't say that we only want to have people who are developers who come to a certain place. There's lots of different onboarding things. Like I know there's the Boss program. There's lots of things that people can do to go into the funnel to become Bitcoin developers. But look at the people who actually are doing the work every day. Like, why did they do this? What brought them to this? You can't select, we only want people who came from this Bitcoin maximalist subculture. It's not something sustainable. That's all.
Also, probably just a psyop to divide us.
Yeah.
I also just, Matt, to your point, I feel like when I have conversations with Bitcoiners at conferences or at meetups, it's vastly different than the conversations that we see circulating on Twitter. I feel
Not
like
with me.
Go ahead.
Said not with me.
Fair. But I do think that there is a level.
Also, I want to ask Luke something.
Go ahead, Hoddle.
How do you know if Vitalik didn't create a NIM and contribute to Bitcoin? Like, how's that possible? Like, how can you even, if you want to enforce only Bitcoin maximalists to contribute, like, how do you even do that? Oh, he left. Okay.
You guys have managed to scare off every single person who opposes you.
Oh,
That is either a
something
reflection.
to
Oh no,
think
Luke
about.
requested. He's coming back.
There we go. All right. He didn't fall hot on that.
Luke, did you catch Mr. Hoddle's full question?
No, but I caught Wicked's question, and I can answer his question.
I don't even remember my question. What was it?
I think Mr. Hoddle's is more interesting, and I'll simplify it. How can you confirm that Vitalik has not created a NIM and is contributing to Core?
You can't. So if Vitalik has an IM and he's contributing things that make Bitcoin better as money, I would support him to do that. But if he's doing things that make spam and NFTs and ordinals bloat the UTXO set and make it harder to run a node, I would oppose that.
So,
Is that controversial?
well, so why do you oppose Gloria again? I'm just curious.
Because now this is why this is perfect, because this answers what Wicked asked me and explains why I was laughing. The reason why I was laughing was because I wasn't having an AI hallucination as the narrative was trying to be framed and painted, which is wild. I wish Tone didn't join. Tone, I have to run, man. I would love to talk about this. I
No,
really would. It's
I just want
interesting.
to make one comment. These things are not mutually exclusive, right? What you have to weigh is the code change making Bitcoin better at a greater rate than it potentially could create these ordinals and NFTs? And most people realize that this ordinal and NFT crap is just temporary and it's going to go away and it doesn't actually hurt Bitcoin long term. In fact, an argument can be made that it's helping Bitcoin short term because there's no miner fees. So you have to weigh the pros and cons. These are not independent things.
Not only that, but
It's making Bitcoin more censorship resistant. That's what it's making, and I think that's what's bothering a lot of people.
I think that's actually the wrong framing of how it's strengthening Bitcoin. I think when you have these stress tests on Bitcoin, you actually figure out what's weak in the system and you strengthen it. So Lightning got a lot stronger because Ordinals fucked with it and forced it to actually evolve and be able to handle high fee environments, right? Users got a lot more witty about UTXO management and how to do fee stuff, RBFs, and all sorts of things like that because Ordinals fucked with them. When we have these stress tests, they actually strengthen the network. And even though we don't like paying more fees, right? And nobody likes other people using block space because they would rather use it cheaper. It's just the fact that we're all going to have to compete for this block space eventually in ways that are very competitive, which means we all have to get better at using block space and more efficient. But you don't learn how to do that without stress tests along the way.
Yeah, and Peter Todd is like the perfect human example of this.
Also, they're exploring spaces, which, for retarded reasons today, but you don't know how those different explorations of, configured ways in which they're using Bitcoin could be useful for monetary purposes tomorrow, right? I think a perfect example of this is like a bunch of people fucking coming up with things about like making wallets that use inscriptions to have encrypted backups and that kind of thing. So it's like, well, is that good or bad? I don't know. You ask me. I think it'd be pretty nice if I didn't have to store my backup in the cloud in a trusted way. It'd be nice if that could be trust minimized or trustless completely on chain.
Yeah. Just to finally answer your question, Wicked, before I rug pull you guys, I appreciate everyone having me. I think different opinions in Bitcoin is a good thing. I really do. I appreciate you answering my questions. Yeah, I mean, the only reason I was laughing at what you said, Wicked, was because I just disagreed the framing that the video circulating on Twitter was like an AI hallucination. And for me, where this goes is whenever I see something, whether it's little changes like relay policy, which whenever I see little changes that take Bitcoin away from being better money, I instantly question someone's background. And like to summarize, I think anybody can work on Bitcoin. If Vitalik wants to improve Bitcoin and make it better money, I'd support the guy, and I don't care about his history. That's not that I will never try to dismiss a person or a character before looking at their idea first. But if I look at their idea, and again, what I think doesn't matter. If I personally dislike their idea, I'm then going to look at their background. I think that summarizes all of the questions I asked today before I bounce. And it's fine to disagree. Like Shinobi said earlier, I think Bitcoin maxis should be making Bitcoin better money. Shinobi said it doesn't matter. And that's fine that we disagree. And I think that's the entire summary of most of the questions I asked. Okay. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. I think it's funny that he said before I rug you guys when he's really rugging himself, just like I bet 110ers did a couple days ago.
I'm going to say this and offer this again. If anyone is fully convinced that there will be a fork and a second token made, I will pre-sell my forked Bitcoin at lower prices than Wicked will offer you. Wicked, don't you dare do it. Don't do it. I know what you're about to say. Don't do it. Let me try to buy a house.
90% off. 90% off, boys. I'll sell you my Bitcoin loop coins for, I think it's going to be called Bitcoin Money, I heard. B Money. So I think it's going to be called B Money. I'll sell you my B Money at 10% going rate. $6,000 a coin.
I want to hear what
Anyone's
Mike had to
interested.
say and why he jumped on stage.
Well, I figured I'd jump in since people were talking about Gloria, Bitcoin Core, developer funding, and the Bitcoin Consortium. But I think all the people asking questions are off the stage now. But yeah, happy to comment on any of those if people have questions.
The floor is yours, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, maybe one thing that I would say, to Luke, and I think maybe Wicked and Mr. Hoddle sort of danced around it and sort of pointed it out, which is the more we're talking about developers' attributes, male or female, or favorite color, or where they live in the world, or if they eat meat or vegetarian, like it's interesting, sure, in a tabloid sort of way. But to the Vitalik contributing to Bitcoin Core, hypothetical, like we don't want to be focusing on those proxy metrics, right? Because it's going to take away from what we really care about, which is what is the proposed code change? Did it get review? Was it tested, right? And none of that stuff matters when you get to that level. And so I think to a degree, the more that the broader community is focusing on those tangential proxy things, it's detrimental. Some folks could even see it as sort of an attack that, hey, if you state these attributes publicly, then you're sort of safe from scrutiny. Where I think you got Luke to say at the end of the day, what matters is the code, right? And so maybe I'd want to bat that point home for the audience.
Thank you for that clarity. And then I brought Dave onto the stage because otherwise we would just be in an echo chamber. So Dave, you are now entering the lion's den, given that BIP110 is in your name. Are you still committed to this fork?
To the actual Bitcoin, yeah, of course.
Feel free to clarify why you believe this to be actual Bitcoin.
Because Mike works for BlackRock.
What? He works for Brink.
Yeah, and the sky is red.
Yeah, there's a reason why you guys failed. It's because you're not serious people.
Well, hang on. Wicked.
After failing
Mike,
so hard.
would you like to address, since you were named, we're going to do this like a proper debate. You were named, you can rebuttal.
I do not work for BlackRock, surprisingly. Yeah, Shinobi's right. I work for Brink. Brink has not received a donation from BlackRock. BlackRock hasn't told me or anybody at Brink what to do or not to do. So maybe I'm curious, Dave, what was your evidence of this?
No, I can just ask, have you had a meeting with any representative from BlackRock over the last 12 months?
Oh, yeah. They're part of the Bitcoin Security Consortium that I'm helping put together. So
Joke's on you, Mike. Walking into that meeting was actually consenting to the terms of an employment contract.
Yeah, that kind of proves the point. But yeah, I have nothing against you personally, Mike. Probably a great guy, but that just proves the point.
What point exactly?
Point.
Yeah.
What's the point?
Oh, I think you already said it.
The point that you're being
David,
a child.
using words loosely a little bit, you and me have had meetings before. Do you think that I'm your employee?
No, we're best buddies.
You're his employer, Shinobi.
Tone, you have respectfully. No, hang on. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead, Tone.
Real quick. So I think like 2 weeks ago, Dr. Jack Cruz, another leading conspiracist over on the pro BIP110 side, wrote this giant post about me, and I've always been open since I came into the space, like started being public 10 years ago. I spent 10 years working on Wall Street. Started out as like a junior analyst, worked my way up to a VP. I was at Bear Stearns, that investment bank went down. Then JP Morgan bought out our unit, so I didn't even change desks. Suddenly JP Morgan is the bank on my paycheck instead of Bear Stearns. Then I ended up quitting, went to a different company, just not a very well-known company. So yeah, I spent 10 years on Wall Street, and then Jack Cruz is writing up this whole email about how I come from this family of bankers and how I'm this evil banker trying to, corrupt Bitcoin. I mean, these conspiracies are completely out of control. It's completely insane. Yeah, I worked on Wall Street from the age of 26 to 35 or something like that. It was a very nice paying job, and that's it. I did my job, I got paid for it until I found something better, and this has been better. Well, not everything is a giant conspiracy. I remember the AXA bullshit, right? AXA, this insurance company that happened to put in $5 million into Blockstream, which is an irrelevant sum of money from their $1 billion investment pool. And we had to deal with that conspiracy for 5 years till people finally forgot about it. It's just insanity.
Yep.
I do think there's a larger point that I have an issue with that Dave, you bring up, that Luke has brought up, and it goes back to this idea at its core, what you are saying and being a proponent of is cancel culture. Do I think BlackRock is a good company? Absolutely not. I literally think they are the worst thing to happen to society. But I do not think that someone taking a meeting with BlackRock or even taking their money to then fund and go and off and try to do something when that person who takes the money does have good intentions with Bitcoin is something that warrants cancel culture. And that is something that I have a real issue with. Again, with the ethos of Bitcoin being censorship resistant money, we as humans continue to try to introduce censorship to this. That is my large issue with BIP110. That is my issue with what you are saying. That is my issue with what Luke had said. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not pro cancel culture, and I'm not pro Mike not being in Bitcoin or Tone. To be clear, I'm just trolling you guys. But there is a cultural aspect of Bitcoin riding on the wave of the maximalist pleb movement, and then at some point you have to kind of pull the brakes when it comes to let's say dancing with the devil.
Okay, David, I have a question. Sorry, Mike, you go ahead because he's been engaging directly with you.
Q, I mean, I think you bring up a good point. I mean, people should be skeptical about how these developers are funded and have questions about that. I mean, I can't speak to all the other organizations funding Bitcoin core development, but what we've tried to do at Brink is be transparent about that, right? And so we write every year an organizational update for the community that says how much money we spent on engineers, how much we spent on travel and these sorts of things, but also where the money comes from, the largest donors. But even then, okay, so somebody gave you $1 million, so does that mean you're going to change something in the code? Well, I'm on the grant committee, I'm on the board, I'm the executive director, but we have independent people unaffiliated with Brink that are also part of those, right? So the grant committee vets applicants, but also vets our existing engineers that we fund each year. And that has included a handful of individuals over the 6 years that we've been around. And many of those individuals, aren't affiliated with Brink in any other way. So if they see an application that's getting pushed along, or I'm trying to nudge something along, or trying to push somebody out because they're not going along with some agenda, those people can speak up. And it's the same thing with the board. The board's technically my boss. And Jonathan Beer and Alex Leishman from River, are on the board, and they're independent. They're not paid by Brink or anything, and so it goes back 6 years of other board members and other grant committee members, and so they, the board has access to these finances, and they approve any decision the committee makes and expenditures, that the organization has. And so there's a lot of checks and balances, at least with the way that we've set it up at Brink, so that independent people can blow the whistle. Other engineers that we've funded can blow the whistle. There's plenty of eyeballs on this thing to say if something goes awry. So we've tried to be transparent, but also then have independent people being part of the organization to help sort of mitigate concerns about donations, or not even donations, if I were trying to do something unilaterally, right, to have these safeguards in place.
Shinobi, I continuously have been cutting you off. Please go ahead.
David, I just want to ask you, in what world did you think Bitcoin would be adopted as a global money, or even just a substantial global asset, where asset managers like BlackRock and Fidelity and sovereign wealth funds would not get involved with Bitcoin? Where did you see a future going where they would not have an interest in paying people to be involved in development, even if just for their own security, so that their employee or their funded developer is making sure that nothing is going wrong or bugs aren't being introduced, because they are now holders of this asset. They are now somebody who it is in their best interest to make sure that this thing doesn't fucking break, because they have a bunch of money in it now. How did you see that not happening in some future path for Bitcoin?
No, I want them to be involved. I was in New York, I think last month, and I met people from BlackRock, so I want them to be involved.
Wait, you met people from BlackRock? Does that mean that you work for BlackRock?
Oh, David works for BlackRock, guys. Busted.
Yeah, I spoke to them about the actual value creation, which is, deploying capital on Lightning and Arc.
I'm so confused right now.
So, guys, it is more important than ever to really push forward with the V2 gossip protocol for Lightning and actually start getting serious about Bolt 12 and privacy improvements. Because what David is doing right here, trying to get those players involved in putting liquidity in those systems, is something I've been worried about for 5 years now. If they are the ones with liquidity and operating all the shit in the middle, guess what? That kind of eviscerates privacy. So we should probably start taking those kinds of things more seriously.
Dave, before you go, Shinobi, expand on this a little bit. Again, non-technical dummy here, so explain it for my smooth brain.
Well, the reason that Lightning has some degree of transactional privacy is because all the nodes in the middle actually forwarding your payment have no idea except where it came from and the next hop to send it. If you start having big players like BlackRock or other funds start spinning up Lightning infrastructure and running those Lightning nodes and putting all their liquidity in the middle of it, and they wind up becoming a bunch of those nodes in the middle, then they see all that stuff. And they can actually piece together where the whole payment came from and where it's going. That's a problem. That's not a good thing. That's a very bad thing.
Onion routing right now, and I like the point you're trying to make is that more capital means more visibility on Lightning, and it's actually incorrect. It can mean more connectivity and more visibility, but that's not necessarily the case. But I don't want to move the discussion away too much from my point. My point was to say that just because I'm pro BIP110 doesn't mean I'm against Wall Street deploying on and buying Bitcoin. That's a fallacy, right? I don't think that BlackRock should have more of a vote than a guy in a garage running a node. That's my point, and that's why Bitcoin is valuable in the first place, because you have decentralization. Everybody knows this. So it's a fallacy to think that a person like me are against Wall Street and BlackRock. So this was a psychological exercise for you guys to kind of think about that for a second.
Dave, will you buy my fork tokens today at a discounted price?
I'm interested in buying it. Yeah.
I will DM you. We will come to terms.
Thank you.
90% off.
We can shut the fuck up.
So anyway, real quick point I want to make. Even if those types of funds don't directly operate nodes themselves, they just give liquidity to other infrastructure providers, it's still going to create the same privacy problem. It's just those infrastructure providers are the ones who get that insight rather than the liquidity providers. It literally doesn't matter. That type of liquidity coming to the Lightning Network is a horrible thing for privacy. And that makes it 100 times more important for us to start working on things like PTLCs instead of HTLCs, actually getting Bolt 12 off the ground so that people can have blinded paths and a more private invoicing system, upgrading the gossip protocol so that routing nodes aren't publicly doxing like actual UTXOs. Like we need to really get on top of those things, or it's going to be very problematic because those players scooping up all of that information, destroying people's privacy, running that infrastructure are going to be the people who we need to convince to upgrade to support these things. And they have a lot of reasons to just go, no, I won't do it.
We have already solved those things. We have Arc, we have OpenArc, and we have
Arc has horrible privacy right now.
We can have liquidity exchange points in the future where you have Arc-like structures between major routing nodes. You just need to update the Lightning gossip to make that work. But it's a longer story. But
David, I've been screaming about those things for 5 years or more. Why do you think I'm so focused on upgrading the gossip protocol? It generalizes everything.
I mean, we want to build great things, but we also need to keep the workshop clean and tidy, and that's the whole point. And I think thinking that BIP110 died because of what happened 2 days ago,
it did.
It's a very interesting it's a very interesting situation that you guys are in because you cannot kill social consensus.
Wait, well, ignore the there's
social consensus.
That doesn't, Dave. What you said doesn't even make sense. And I know it doesn't make sense. That's how I know it doesn't make any sense. Like the blocks were not mined. They're still there. You only mined 2 blocks. In what world?
How many people are in that Discord talking about like what proof of work change should be made? Is it like 100 people now?
So the logic that Wicked is trying to say here is that he's trying to say that people that care and know less about Bitcoin should have more of a say in Bitcoin. That's the logic he just applied when he said there are only 100 people or 1,000 people. That's
Do you
like
think the
illogical.
people in that Discord know more about Bitcoin?
It's like I have a nuclear power plant and I'm expecting to be 10,000 people.
Yeah,
inside.
it's a complete and utter psyop,
maybe
bro.
20 engineers, but not 10,000 people in a nuclear power plant. So that's a very stupid thought you just did there. But I respect you anyways.
Hey guys, I don't talk about shitcoin, so I'm going to drop. I'll catch you guys later.
Bye-bye.
Mic drop.
I'm giving you guys fair warning. You have 10 minutes. I do have a job. I will remind everyone in the audience that if you would like, Bitcoin Well this week is offering free help for any and all self-custody stuff. Feel free to reach out to us. And if you are looking to make a larger Bitcoin purchase, feel free to shoot me a DM. Daniel, thank you so much for joining. I'm glad that my shit talking about dominating you in fantasy football this year did not scare you away. Welcome to the stage.
Yeah, what's up, man? I don't know how it's going to turn out drafting on the plane. That's going to be it's going to be adventurous. I always get cut off. I know I'm going to end up with like 3 quarterbacks or something. It's going to be terrible.
Well, Daniel, I appreciated all you had to say both on Friday and on Saturday. And I don't know how much of this conversation you have caught, but I'd love your perspective just on how you've seen things shake out on Saturday and the conversations that you've been seeing around BIP110.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I figured people would crash out. I mean, Hoddle was talking about it too. And they have. but I thought maybe there'd be a little less of the let's double down. You know, obviously Luke was going to do that, and we expected that, but I don't know how long they're going to run this race, man. I like, it's not. I think the funny thing is, it's not helping the shared goal to be pedantic about these smaller issues. I just really, the spam will go away. It abated largely, and it will continue to, because it just doesn't have any staying power in terms of utility. And so to fork off and sort of put all your economic energy that direction is really a travesty for the shared goal. Now, I don't know how many people it actually represents. Like the deduped list thing was like 5,600 nodes or, something. Who knows how many people were running multiples or whatever. I don't know. I thought people would get it. I thought people would internalize it, but it seems like there's some really strange explanations. Instead of looking at it as like, hey, there's 350 million people who are like invested in Bitcoin in some way, and we were like 5,000 people. You know what I mean? Like, and just because we turn software on, we're going to be able to control Bitcoin. Like, if you just tell someone in the abstract, right, beforehand, and you said this to them, you said, hey, like, there's a change to Bitcoin I want to make, and I think I should be allowed to make it, and obviously I should, and here's the setup. I've got 1% of miners, I got 0.1% of Bitcoin invested individuals, and I got like 0.1% of Bitcoin businesses on my side. And obviously I should be allowed to make this change, and we should go the direction I want to go. Like, people would be like, what the fuck are you talking about? You know what I mean? Like, what? Of course you're not going to be able to do that. But as soon as you say the change is this thing that I'm emotional about, they believe that, like, no matter how minuscule their support expression is in the market, like, they should be able to do it. And I thought they'd look at that and it would kind of like set in, and I don't know, it hasn't to the extent that I thought it would.
I also just have a larger issue question, and this just might be my naivety in this, but if the concept or idea is that if enough nodes turn on and do this, that becomes consensus, how is that how could, in theory, BlackRock not just be like, well, that's what we want to see, so we're just going to buy up a bunch of nodes, spin them up, and we're going to force the network to go in a certain direction?
Yeah, I mean, it's pure Sybil, right? I mean, it's pure Sybil. And that's what to a larger extent, we have the proof of work that is more of the objective, like, mathematical proof of work inside of Bitcoin. But there's this sort of like social proof of work, which is the economic side off chain. And that's kind of like it's a hazier form of proof of work, but it exists, and it prevents exactly that. Because if all you had to do is just turn on software with enough nodes that like mask their IP just well enough, to fool everyone, then Bitcoin would be susceptible to all sorts of attacks. And we would all lament that. We would lament if like some nefarious organization could invest a relatively small amount of money to get around, the general will of everyone else by just spinning up little software nodes that aren't really backed by, the market force of like people investing in a direction.
No, I mean, you can't say they were all fake, right? They had real nodes.
It's 5,600. Yeah, I mean
I don't even mind the UASF. Like, whatever, they wanted to try it, go for it. They realize this fails, now compete. So like, as long as the fork doesn't try to pretend to be Bitcoin, like a less secure chain is claiming to be Bitcoin, by all means, go at it. Try to fight spam all you want. I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think that's a bad thing at all. I think the 55% threshold was a bad thing. I don't think a group of people just don't like Bitcoin for whatever reason, because of the developers, because people are wearing the wrong colored clothes. Like, it doesn't matter. They should have the right to try to change it. Once they see they can change it, but then they have to make a decision. Do we continue on with this new chain and compete against Bitcoin? If yes, great. If no, great. Like, it doesn't matter anymore. It's just now we're at a point where this is no different than 75 other Bitcoin UTXO forks. Like, literally exactly the same thing. This is Bitcoin Diamond. This is Bitcoin Gold now. This is Bitcoin Pure, Bitcoin Supreme. This is what this is. This is not...
It's so hard to believe that they can dilute. I mean, I understand if this happened, if this was 2017 or some earlier epoch of Bitcoin, I can understand where people would be deluded enough to fool themselves into this, but like, I just can't get
There's
there.
so
now.
many more people here now, dude. There's just so many more people that are just that many more technically ignorant people that don't understand. They just don't get it. I mean, eventually they will. Like, he's going to promise them probably that Bitcoin is doomed. It's a pedophile coin. It's going to zero. Buy my shit coin. It's better. I mean, it's the same song and dance that it's always been. Like, there's nothing new here. Absolutely nothing new.
I guess the part that's so hard to really fathom in terms of, I think it must be a literal psychosis for some of these folks, is that you can kind of read the tea leaves. You look around, none of the miners cared. None of the exchanges are like publishing blog posts on it. Like no one.
Bro, Luke is trying to steal Bitcoin to pay roughneck miners. I would not be surprised if Luke tries to go and get his 200 Bitcoin back, 217 Bitcoin back on that chain. Like, this was a rug. This whole thing is a rug.
I get it. We've had so much history, and there's just such a clear market, a market decision that to look around and say it's us 5,000 chickens against the world. Like you would have to suffer from either some sort of psychosis, or you're so principled. And I want to give maybe David some credit here, people like him. Maybe they are saying, look, I have this moral thing where, I know that it's a lost cause or whatever, but I'm just going to do it no matter what. Right? Like those people I kind of understand, you know what I mean? Because they're making more of a rational decision. Well, not rational, but a decision that's predicated on like certain things where they understand what's going on. But you talk to some of them and it's not. They clearly believe the 5,000 of them are going to take on the world. And it's like, come on, man. What are you throwing this all away for,
What if we're talking to bots, AI bots?
No, I mean, come on. We're not talking AI, but there's enough. There's 5,000 dumb people out of 350 million.
I think they're being controlled by 20 people and about 5,000 bots. That's what's happening. That's what you're seeing.
You guys should really get a propaganda class from me. We should have a PowerPoint session or something, because you guys really need to up the propaganda.
Tell me.
I mean, this is the Wicked knows what I mean. I mean, I don't even have to say anything.
No, Dave, you can't present an idea and then just say I don't even need to say it. If you're going to say something, say it.
Of course I can.
All right. Thank you for joining us. You will be removed from the stage. And I will bring on another BIP110er who wants to enter the dojo.
Oh, you got a list of them down there trying to get up? Bring them all up.
Yeah, it's the I would love. I wonder if there's a metric or a way. What's the best way that we could find out how many were winnowed out of the herd from this soft fork attempt? Like, how many are going to continue on to September 1st? Like, I'd love to understand the drop off.
I do love there seems to be 2, maybe 3 cohorts of BIP110ers. There's the what's that Fred Krueger clown who's like, I'm all in on BIP110, and then was like, that was a nice try, I'm out, and then removes it from his handle. We have the Canuts who are apologizing. We have those who are hiding right now to figure out what the next move is, and then you have people who are digging in their heels. And I'm most curious about the people who are digging in their heels, as though the market has not signaled that they don't care about this. And for whatever reason, they think that they are smarter than the market.
Yeah, it reminds me of that. If you've seen A Few Good Men, the scene where the Demi Moore is playing the female lawyer and she objects. It's the first thing was objection. And the judge is overruled. And that's what the market did here. She's like, no, I must object again. And she's like, I strenuously object. And they're all just strenuously object. Oh, well, now I reconsider. It's exactly that scene. And you're just after the fact, you're guys, it was already spoken for. What are you doing? You're going to get rejected harder, in fact, because now I'm going to trade against you. Now I'm absolutely trading against you because there's going to be replay protection. And I'm going to trade it just like the BSB dump and all the rest. And I made a shitload of money on
You're
those
not going to make
things.
a lot of
And we
money on
can't.
this one, though.
Yeah, well,
Well,
that's
we'll
only because
see. I mean,
Wicked, you keep offering 90% discounts on the fork tokens.
Well, it's going to go down to like 99 by the time it
Sure,
rolls
that's why I'm
around.
trying to pre-sell it. But Neil,
you don't have to like undercut us, bro. Like, what are you
exactly,
doing? Like,
exactly. We can, as a consensus, determine we'll sell it at a
I've always been the type of guy who give them good deals. Man.
Wicked. Stop.
I've never been a
Wait,
good
did Puncher
businessman.
pay you? Wicked. Did Puncher pay you?
No.
Oh my God, no way. Oh, okay, it's time to bust some balls.
Okay, I
But
brought Neil onto
but
the
that being
stage.
said, I haven't busted his balls today, so I didn't ask him to.
Neil, we do want to ask.
But he's supposed to be donating it, not paying me.
Neil, I do want to ask, given what has happened on Saturday, how have you felt about what I would call an abject failure in the BIP110 experiment?
Yeah, I mean, I'm here for the Post-Mortem. You know, you had me up on Friday or whatever, so yeah, I'm not really scared or ashamed of anything. Like, I'm just a sovereign actor here, but yeah, we lost like 110 lot. We're down 150 blocks. Like, so like the things to take away is just like, well, how did this whole discourse go? And it just wasn't good enough. I mean, I advocated for my interests in the way that I thought was best, that I thought that convinced me. I'm not here shouting pedo at people and stuff. So it's like that probably wasn't a very good strategy for those that engaged in that way. But yeah, I don't know. To me, it's just the why. There's I'm on Bitcoin. Like I'm on Bitcoin. Like that's the thing. A proposal was put forth. There was 2 sets of protocol rules. I had 2 cars in front of me, and I checked them out, and I thought which one performed for me better, and I advocated for it. We lost. No, most of the other people, the market, the free market, whatever, said no. So like that's just feedback that I have to take in, and like I don't know. I don't have any shame. There's nothing that I wouldn't approach the next BIP or the next whatever. Like I won't approach the next block any differently. Like the same thought process, how I live my life is what got me into Bitcoin. And like, that's how I live. So I'm going to keep doing that. I'm going to keep being a participant in the network, advocating for my interests. And because that's how Bitcoin forms consensus, but that's how we get the solution. So I'm here for any questions or whatever, but
I think you represent. See, I mean, your articulation is a sane. Yeah, obviously disagree on the substantive points, but I think that's a sane perspective. I think that's like I somehow that you seem to be a minority. Like the pedo thing was, I think that's the line where it's like I can't socially ever accept someone who did that. So it's good to hear you say that, and like the way you looked at it, saying, "Hey, I just made the best decision for me," but really in the end, it's Bitcoin. Like I would hope that view you articulated is the majority view of these people. I mean, I would just really hope because I think it's mature and
Daniel, I could assure you, I got some scouts in the Discord, and I assure you that is not the majority opinion on there, at least. They are.
But it's the Discord. That's like saying, like, "Hey, I was in Hitler's bunker when he was yelling a lot." Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, true.
yeah, and I mean, like, I engaged both sides. Like, I mean, I asked Wicked things. Like, I tried to make the case and ask people for the information that I would need for me to change my position, and so it's just, I engaged with Mr. Hoddle, I engaged with Wicked, I engaged with Lop. Like I asked people questions that would persuade me, because like I just went with that. So it's like, I'm okay with people disagreeing. Like that's the whole point of Bitcoin, is like we're different people, we have different interests, we're going to see things differently, and this tug of war is that but the fact that I think both sides though do need to take a little bit of the, like, you guys also weren't able to persuade me. Like I'm here, I'm trying to follow my logic.
But I didn't need to persuade you.
Hey, Hoddle, the
I know.
rules of the
I'm
room.
just saying, as a community, though, when we're battling and we're advocating for, hey, I think this is bet. You ought to. I'm doing this. This is why I think this is the right path. And when you engage in discourse, you're trying to sell. You're trying to promote your own interests too. Like it would be better for you if I was on your side. Like we're all trying to persuade each other in dialogue. That's the whole point of human rationality. We speak to each other. We're trying to see reality. And it's just like, we all have stuff to take from this, like how we talk and engage with each other as a community. Like I would say, I think we all could do better in that regard.
Yeah, and I think one thing is, I mean, I certainly put out a lot of meme content. Like I was joking around about it. Like the pedo people I was kind of more mad at, but you're right in the sense that everyone should be kind in how they come across, as long as the other party isn't directly doing something egregious. But also, like for me, pretty early on, especially when you started seeing the market behave the way it was, it kind of wasn't even about what 110 comprised anymore. It was mostly, for me, it became like, I really don't give a shit what the proposal is. If you are trying to tell me that you should be able to ram your consensus changes through with 1% of miners, 0.1% of Bitcoin businesses, and less than 0.1% of all Bitcoin invested individuals, that's like, I would just literally oppose you on that. I wouldn't even look at what the proposal was. I wouldn't even care. It doesn't matter. You shouldn't be able to. And so, that's why personally in the chats that we had, I was very confident that it would not pass, because it was just so lopsided, right? And at the point that it is that lopsided, it can't succeed, because if it was to succeed, it would prove a precedent that was far worse than whatever the topic of the day was. It would prove that a tiny, like the people that are in the FBI building working over the holiday could spin up nodes. And you know what I mean? Like anything is possible at that point. And it would undermine all of our beliefs in some of the foundational principles of the technical parts of the network. So that's why it became more about that than even like the 7 consensus changes that don't really work.
I want to add to that real quick, because back in February, when Johnny and I debated Mechanic and Luke on that same day, on that same stage at Adopting Bitcoin, I think it was back in February, I did a 30-minute presentation on literally what you just said. I did a 30-minute presentation explaining why the BIP110 will basically centralize Bitcoin. And then Mechanic did an entire 1-hour video talking shit about my video, because the thing that upset him the most was that I never mentioned what BIP110 actually did. And I replied to him, no, I did mention what BIP110 is going to do. It's going to centralize Bitcoin and send its price to zero. So I literally did a whole presentation about that, and it really got them upset, because I had no reason to mention the actual changes that BIP110 was going to make.
Andy, I brought you on the stage because I noticed you wrote an article, and I would like for you to feel free to share your change in heart with the class.
Yeah, hey, thank you can you hear me first of all?
Yes.
Great. I've got to go in like 5 minutes, but I've been listening for over an hour now. But yeah, I just took some time the last couple of days to kind of puke out an article, and I just wanted to come on and let everybody know I was a BIP110 supporter, and this whole fork has been actually really healthy for me educational wise. And so that's a positive thing, I think, for hopefully everybody who opposed BIP110 to take from me as a BIP110 supporter, because it just kind of was I say this in the article, it was a glass of cold water splashed into my face to kind of get my mind wrapped around how Bitcoin works. And I'd kind of oscillated back and forth. I remember even reaching out to Shinobi, Brian, and he sent me some articles and I read them, and it convinced me that BIP110 wasn't the way. But then over the course of like 6 or 7 months of watching Crater and Mechanic and all that slop, I guess now I can say, like, I definitely went back to BIP110. And in hindsight, if I were to say one thing before I be quiet here, I think one of the things that was hard for me was just the communication was so simple on the BIP110 side. and therefore it was effective. It was just like, hey, do you want, CSAM on the network? Look at the chain. It's getting bloated. It's being hard to run a node, and we can fix this. And so it was like, well, sure, without doing the technical analysis and going in deep dive reading. And so this was just a wake up call to me, like, bro, it's way more complicated than that. But anyways, I just wanted to summarize. I was a BIP110 supporter. I wrote an article. It's kind of a puke sesh of an article. It's not real technical. It's more emotional, but just like, man, I kind of woke me up. I'm still Bitcoin advocate. As long as I can load a node and run my transactions through it, that's kind of the promise of it. So anyways, I'm done. Thanks for letting me speak.
The craziest thing about what you said is it sounds like Shinobi very calmly and gently helped you.
I don't believe it. Had to be who has your account?
It had to be someone
He's
else.
real gentle.
Someone else was in his account that day because that's not the Shinobi I know and love.
Dude, I react based on how people engage with me. If people engage calmly and honestly, I engage calmly and honestly. If they lie, bullshit, and mislead, I lose my shit.
I think that's a very fair thing to say. Tone, I cut you off before I turned it to Andy. I want to turn it back to you.
No. I literally, the moment I hit the mute button, you started talking, so I thought it was perfect.
See, great minds think alike. Juan, I know you've been waiting patiently to speak. Welcome to the stage. As a reminder, the rules of this stage are simple. We let each other talk. We finish. We don't interrupt. Mr. Hoddle, Wicked, I'm literally looking at the two of you when I say this. But Juan, welcome to the stage. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Q. Actually, I wanted to join earlier when we were talking about, well, Dave said that, he didn't want BlackRock to be, let's say, determining what consensus is in Bitcoin. And it's just such a funny thing to say because on the one hand, BlackRock represents the interest of a lot of different people, right? Different investors that have chosen not to take self-custody. Instead, they're sort of investing it with a fund. The BlackRock is a public fund, as far as I understand. There's investors in it, right? So those are people that want to own Bitcoin through BlackRock. The same goes for all the other ETFs. You could say the same thing for exchanges. But also, Bitcoin is not proof of stake, right? So those entities alone cannot change Bitcoin consensus. I think that's the key thing. I mean, there's a really good study that was, I think, Lynn Alden was involved in, which was trying to understand Bitcoin consensus. And there's like 6 different parties, right? Core developers, the miners, capital, right? There's influencers, right? The broader community. And it seems like, I don't know if the BIP110 people really did their homework on this, because it was really obvious before the fork that they just did not have enough support from any of the parties involved. So I have a hard time understanding what supporters expected would happen. Like, Dave, maybe you can speak to this. Like, how did you think this actually was going to play out? Did you think that this had any chance of success? And is there any insights that you've gotten from the whole process that make you think, oh, okay, I was wrong about that? Or how do you think about it?
No, I think BIP110 activation day, or the 8th of August 2026, is kind of the day where you went to the doctor and the doctor said you have cancer, but you don't feel sick yet because it's cancer, right? So you did a radiology scan. They can see that there's a small tumor. Maybe there's spread, and you're not gonna have a follow-up meeting. That's how I see the situation, and I expected them. I was very bearish actually on them flipping the bit, considering the situation with how centralized things are currently. And also, it's not a grand conspiracy. It can also be that they are severely discounting the action that they took, right? So, because most people aren't Bitcoin maximalists on walking on this earth, and we all know that. Like, we're not the majority of people, right? That doesn't mean that we shouldn't have a say, and that shouldn't mean that we shouldn't be the ones influencing others So with the whole BlackRock point, I mean, they are free to influence anybody to have any opinion that they would like, but people are also free to choose if they want to follow their advertisements or if they want to have their own opinion. So consensus is notoriously hard to measure, and decentralization is notoriously hard to measure. And I believe firmly that BIP110 measured how centralized, or let's say decentralized or centralized, the Bitcoin network currently is. And that's fine. Now we have a diagnosis, or I have a diagnosis. I mean, you guys can have your own opinion, and we'll take it from here. We'll see where this leads us. I think it's a healthy situation, and I have trolled people along the way, but I've always, I've even said to Adam Back, like, God bless your soul, and to Stefan Rivera, God bless you. Like, I'm nothing against anybody, but I do point out when I see people spreading FUD and propaganda, because people can see through that. And, the internet doesn't forget when you actually do FUD and spread lies. So it's, even if let's say you're right, right? When you FUD, that is recorded forever. So you should try to avoid that, and let the best ideas win.
Dave, I feel like the analogy was interesting. I feel like it's a glass house metastasized, effectively the cancer analogy. And I guess the weirdest part I feel like is it inverts the reality in the sense that, like, you say that the cancer develops, it starts small, right? And so you got that diagnosis. Well, what was small here was the thing that grew in Bitcoin, which was this vitriolic discord from a relatively small amount of people that represented, 1% of miners, 0.1% of Bitcoin invested individuals. If I had to, I'm not going to call you guys cancers, but like, if I was using your analogy, I would say that's the cancer. And it was effectively removed from the organism, on the 8th. And now, maybe the cancer is going to survive in its own petri dish, with some, I don't know, fluids or something, and it's going to grow into its own little cancerous organism or something, like as a hard fork. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's kind of where I would see the analogy. It just seems odd to say, like, the 98% of the being is the cancer. That's I don't know.
Dave, before you go, Shinobi, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that, like, Dave didn't, like, hit his head and get confused and think he was talking to himself or something.
Hey, Dave, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So cancer actually, I'm not going to do a long one. I'm just going to explain shortly. Cancer was thought to be this localized thing, but now with the advent of immunotherapy, it looks like cancer is actually a disease of the immune system. So the white blood cells, let's call them the Bitcoin maximalists, are patrolling your blood daily and your organs, and they make sure that they kill off cells that are cancerous. So everybody has cancer every day on a very microscopic level, but the white blood cells kill the cancer cells off. And when you get cancer, what seems to be the case is that your immune system isn't working properly. So that's why you have these medicines called Keytruda and whatever. It's the most sold drug in the world currently, and it basically takes the brakes off the immune system so that the immune system can attack the cancer cells. And what I'm trying to say here is that when you remove the Bitcoin maximalists from Bitcoin, you are destroying your own immune system to bad stuff. And it's not going anymore. So it's not very evident in the early days. So now 2 days? But what I'm expecting to happen is that things will metastasize, or how you say it. And it's not going to be very evident in the first couple of days, but it will be more and more severe over time. And this is why cancer is, by the way, a big problem in the world, because we have fiat and people eat processed foods and then they discount the future. So they eat seed oils and all this stuff. So I'm just trying to say that there's a very direct analogy between cancer and what's currently happening to Bitcoin. And that's why I think Bitcoin just got Bitcoin has had cancer for a long time. It just got the diagnosis right. Thankfully, probably got it enough, but it might be too late. But we'll see.
When you spread FUD, it stays on the internet forever, right?
You are the autoimmune disease, David. Like, every analogy that you keep trying to make is just completely inverted backwards and is about you guys and your lack of self-awareness about it on any level is mind-blowing. Like, it's just really mind-blowing.
I mean,
Yeah,
you're
I
free
wanna.
to have that opinion. It wasn't really a good argument, but you're free to have that opinion. I mean, that's fine.
I want to jump on it as well, right? Because a bunch of us were around, like myself and Hoddle and Shinobi, when the term Bitcoin maximalist even came into existence. I agree, it has lost all meaning. But back then, all it meant was someone that hates shitcoins, someone that doesn't get involved in shitcoins. And somehow, through this BIP110 movement, Bitcoin maximalist has become anyone that is pro-core is somehow not a Bitcoin maximalist, right? Like this definition kept getting narrower and narrower and narrower. It started off so simple, right? Like none of us want NFTs or ordinals. I don't want it. I've never used it. I've never seen one. And somehow, like I couldn't care less if I am or I am not a Bitcoin maximalist. But I don't shitcoin. And you guys want to take this term? That's fine, but it doesn't mean anything. It was originally created with one very specific definition. And now you're just rewriting it, so fine, whatever, nobody cares.
I am literally one of the original Bitcoin maximalists. Like, literally.
Same.
I do think there's also, like, fine, we'll play with your analogy for a second here. As someone who came into this space after the phrase was coined, I also appreciated and understood the purpose and the purity that Bitcoin maximalists have brought to the conversations around Bitcoin. And I think it's a healthy reminder that there are things that, while, Tone, to your point, I think ordinals are the stupidest thing. The fact that someone inscribed a fart noise to me was like the nail in the coffin of like, okay, I heard the arguments around censorship, that you can inscribe the Bible or this, that, or the other, and it's important for those things. Sure, great, that's wonderful. But the moment that someone inscribed a fart noise, I was like, this is dumb. I, however, don't think that censorship has any place in Bitcoin. And that's where I have such a hard time understanding why BIP110 is even still relevant or should be considered relevant.
But in addition, like the more you try to fight the ordinals and all this other garbage, the more they want to put more ordinals in. Like the whole Streisand effect. Like they never understood that. Like the best thing was to just ignore this NFT and ordinal bullshit. And a bunch of us said, it's gonna go away. It is not financially viable to keep it going because we saw it all with ICOs and shitcoins in 2017. And yet somehow the BIP110 camp, because they weren't there to watch this useless nonsense rise and fall, somehow wanted to fight it while we saw the outcome where they found more creative ways to stick it in that's BIP110 compliant. And it was just like hilarious.
Definite Streisand effect, yes.
I will strongman the other side of this, and I have heard this argument that I think was brilliant on the ordinals, that yes, ignoring it, that was my path as well. But what it showed was that this whole idea of hyper-Bitcoinization, we are not prepared for that. Like if tomorrow the world woke up and said, everyone needs to transact on Bitcoin, we would not be ready for that. We do not have enough custody solutions. We do not have enough like and hardware ready to deploy for everyone to onboard quickly. And we saw, just based on the fees alone, that it would be unattainable for the entire world to transact on the layer one of this network. I think, Shinobi, that feeds to your point of we need to build stronger security protocols into layer two and just expand what layer two looks like. But I do think that while the intentions of ordinals was moronic, I thought it was a great sandbox test to show that there is a lot more work that needs to be done. And I appreciate the core contributors who have come and spoken today and continue to work to help make that a reality. Juan, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I think to me one of the big lessons with this whole ordeal is that the cultural ambitions of the Bitcoin, let's say, maximalist community, the people that won the Bitcoin cash fork, I consider myself among them. There's this sort of idea that was left over after the Bitcoin Cash people left, which was that through Bitcoin maximalist culture, we were going to somehow, we were the immune system, we were going to enforce and we were going to put social pressure on the industry and so on. And that idea just kind of kept evolving in its own logic. And I think it became this sort of idea that you can actually filter transactions at a protocol level and not centralize the network, right? And while that whole thing was happening, Bitcoin grew, it's like 7 years of growth. And so it got to a point where there's a whole other like niche of people that are just like doing stupid thing, putting weird art and like spamming, whatever you want, like the whole ordinal crowd. That's a whole niche of people that don't really have the same values as the Bitcoiners from, let's say, the Bitcoin Cash fork era. And they also ran nodes and fucking coded up software. And turns out that the maximalist sort of culture failed to expand. And in fact, I think was sort of doomed in the first place, right? Like the whole point, the whole reason why you can't filter transactions is because Bitcoin is decentralized. Because anybody can sort of change relay policies on their own local level and pay a miner to mine a transaction that goes against your relay policy if it gets a little bit difficult to get your transaction relayed. But like because Bitcoin is decentralized, you can't really have relay policy sort of filters. And I think it speaks really to the idea that we're going to dominate culturally. The whole point, that the thing that made me interested in Bitcoin originally, many years ago, was that you don't need to culturally convince people to fucking use the thing, right? This is not a religious, holy evangelist kind of effort. Yes, there is a kind of, there are elements of evangelism, and there's certainly almost some theological ideas, or at least ideas that are very deep. But like, we're not going to convince people through just narrative and so on. It has to be economically useful. It has to be an actual tool that makes people's lives practically better without them having to be cultural adepts of our maximalist sort of religion, right? And I think that's actually the cancer that has been expelled from Bitcoin, is this sort of straight up religious kind of, or pseudo religious kind of group that are actually centralizing, and they're trying to centralize Bitcoin by filtering at will, right? So anyway, my rant over.
I do want to ask Shinobi and Tone, I've asked this question multiple times and I will continue to ask it because I feel like it warrants multiple iterations, multiple perspectives. But having only read about the block size wars, to me, this entire conversation, this whole time, like in the lead up to Saturday, I was so confused because I was like, I thought we've done this before. I thought we've learned our lesson. And it felt to me like I was now reliving what I've read in the block size wars. How similar or different has this entire ordeal been from your lived experience during that?
Dude, this is like a clown show. If the block size wars is like an actual fucking war, this is like watching a bunch of fucking drunks and like fucking children run around and try and do a war reenactment in the park and just fuck up literally every single fucking thing that's important to get right.
Yeah, no, that's a great analogy. Is that it's literally it followed what happened in 2017 identically, but it was like children reenacting a real battle without realizing how it ends, even though they should know how it ends, right? It was literally a play on something that actually happened. So it's almost like, going to watch the play Julius Caesar, and you have no idea how Julius Caesar died. And you're in the play, and you're surprised as to the outcome of what happened to Julius Caesar, even though you could have easily looked it up before going to the play, but you didn't.
I want to ask now a similar question to Dave and Neil. Have you guys read The Block Size Wars?
My wife uses that book as a stand.
I mean, no, I have not read that book. I guess I come in, at the end of 23, whatever. That's my Bitcoin story. That's how I'm coming into Bitcoin. I mean, the story that sticks out to me as I'm learning this is decentralized governance. So I kind of disagree with the idea that there's a play, there's a script. Like, this is just human action. This is like, that's why I never, predicted an outcome, because I don't know what, I can't see into your mind. I can only see what you do. I can only see the code in the software that you're running on the network. I can only, that's the only thing I can actually observe to judge. So that's kind of that's why I looked just at the protocol rules. I don't care about any personality. I really don't. I tried to push through that, cut through all the bullshit to just, for me, to find the specs, to find the why, to tie it back to how I act in this world. And it's just like, so I think that when people say, oh, it's in the books, it's written, like, look at the tea leaves, look at all this stuff. I'm like, that's a category error, because I can't predict your behavior. And I certainly can't predict the behavior of all network participants. So the idea that I'm going to try to even pretend that I could know or try to game it that way, that was just off the table for me. So, I'm coming at it from a completely different way than all you guys do, which is to be expected. But when I'm telling you, this is what I see from how I'm approaching these things, it's like, you can take that for what it's worth, but it's like you have to talk to me in how I'm viewing the world if you're going to persuade me. And that idea that we're not in a persuasion game when we're coming onto spaces and saying this is good and this is bad, that's moral, that's ethics. You're selling an ought. You're selling, hey, you should do this, you shouldn't do that. That's what we're doing. So it's like, if we want to just say we're not going to engage in advocacy, then I'm fine with that. But we're not. We're all talking on spaces, trying to help each other out, figure out what's best to do. So I don't know if that answered your question.
So let me comment on this real quick. So I think the main difference between what's happening now in 26 and what happened back in 2017 is algorithms. Your news feed, your Twitter, your YouTube is tailored to kind of what it thinks you want to hear. So I can see people not being able to clearly see the right information until after, the event has occurred. And then you're like, oh, okay, now it makes sense. So I can see it from that perspective. But at the end of the day, the only thing that matters in Bitcoin and the only thing that decides what Bitcoin is consensus. And it was pretty clear to us back in 2017 that SegWit had consensus and BIP110 does not have consensus. So that's why we were very certain that the user-activated soft fork of 2017 was going to succeed, and this user-activated soft fork was not going to succeed. Now the Bcash side is very different, right? So after the user-activated soft fork played out, right? So in the case of 2017, the user-activated soft fork succeeded, not literally, but SegWit got in before Hodl corrects me. And in this time around, the user-activated soft fork failed. But the aftermath of the user-activated soft fork is leading to a disgruntled group of people choosing to fork off, claiming that they're the proper Bitcoin. And this has happened time and time again. So there's two different elements here, but both of them come down to understanding consensus.
I'm curious for the folks that were on the 110 side, whether, the node counts that came out from one of the folks that worked at Ocean, I believe it put the unique node counts as best as you could figure at 70,000 for core and about 5,600 for the 110 side. And I'm curious if there's any sort of, if looking at that, there's the recognition that.
Did I lose him or?
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear? Am I?
I can hear
No, you're good. You're good.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I wonder if there's recognition that obviously, right, that wasn't enough. And I think there's two takeaways. 5,000, out of 75,000 isn't enough. Well, clearly. And then, I don't actually think nodes are the only thing that matter. Like if you had maybe had 100% or 85% plus or something, then you're really talking. I don't know where the threshold is. I think it's actually changes in terms of how the ecosystem is now versus maybe how it was 10 years ago. But I'm just curious as to whether the takeaway is there, specifically David, because I know like Neil is sort of, I think he's in one, well, Neil, maybe first, but like, what are the takeaways you have from that? Like, do you just think the threshold is higher and you missed it and it needed to be 2 or 3x or 5x or what? And then is there recognition that maybe the percentage of nodes, like let's say it is 15% of nodes, doesn't cleanly map to the same percentage of all Bitcoin invested individuals and what they might think? It's not like because you have 15% of these people who run nodes, it means you have 15% of the 350 million umbrella of all people invest in Bitcoin. Does that make sense? Like, I'm just curious your thoughts on that.
Yeah, no, that makes sense to me. And yeah, agreed. Like looking back, like obviously that was not enough support. Like there wasn't enough momentum, enough weight, whatever you want to call it, behind like all these incentives, so I really don't even care what the node count is for my decision to run, like why I ran 110. Like there could have been 2 nodes. And if I would have done the analysis and thought and said, this is what I need to run, like I would be the 3rd node to run it, or I would be the 15,000 node to run. Like that kind of like, to me, that's putting it's assuming the conclusion. Like if I have to look outside.
Well, Neil, just one second. Let me add something here. I know how your thinking makes sense, but I'm curious, like, there's people out there who think Bitcoin didn't work. Like it's broken because because 5,000 nodes out of 75,000 wasn't good enough. And it doesn't sound like that's how you think, but I'm curious, like that mentality seemed to be pervasive among some 110ers. I don't know if you picked that up, but like, does your view evolved, or do you have a greater understanding now of like the difference between nodes and like all the individuals and like percentages and thresholds? Like, I'm just curious.
No, I think that the Nakamoto consensus worked. Like I put out a little video where I explain, like, it's a sausage making thing. We're all feeding our interests into this, and out comes this collective good. Like, so to me, Nakamoto consensus produces a collective answer that is better than any individual could come up with. Like, to me, that is a feature that is, I can't watch my back. I need you to do it. So it's like, that's kind of that idea of we're all acting in our own self-interest, what we think is good. We run the software, we put it into Bitcoin, and it pops out a consensus. It processes all of our own conflicting interests, and it sorts it out and finds the through line. And it's like, what happens in that sausage machine, I don't get to see all the inputs, but I just get to see what comes out. And it's like, so obviously the economic weight and all the different political things, like all that stuff is in play. And all I can say is that, well, on Saturday, that wasn't enough to, like, when all the incentives compressed and it came to the decisive point, they didn't flip the bit, like, that's what happened. So like, I don't know if that answers the question. Like, to me, that's the sausage making process working. So I don't know.
At the end of the day, it's going to come down to economic weight, and there is no formula for this. 5,000 nodes could have been enough if it had enough economic weight. So it's not about the node count; it's about the economic weight. And a mining node is a lot of economic weight. An exchange is a lot of economic weight. A large hodler like Sailor is large economic weight, even though everyone starts screaming, that's proof of stake. It's not proof of stake. because I have mentioned exchanges and miners. And what a lot of people don't realize is a core developer or a developer that's working on Bitcoin, let me remove the word core. A Bitcoin developer is a lot of economic weight. Luke Dash-Jewer is a lot of economic weight. Look at the movement that he basically started. Okay, so a single competent Bitcoin developer is a shit ton of economic weight, even if he has 0 Bitcoin. And you have to aggregate all that, and that's what creates consensus.
So Juan, before you go, just real quick, on the topic of exchanges, I want to remind everyone that Bitcoin Well is the only non-custodial exchange that operates in the United States. We are offered all throughout the world. Stop buying Bitcoin at custodial exchanges, buy Bitcoin and send it directly to your self-custody wallet. Juan, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that, I mean, yes, economic weight is obviously a big piece of it because it potentially influences miner incentives, right? So if the miners fear that they're going to be mining the wrong side of the economic sort of majority, the economic weight of Bitcoin, then they're gonna go for the money because they're very strongly incentivized to be in the most profitable side of the chain. But there's also developer kind of consensus, right? Like, and it's consensus might not even be the right word, but like the developers have to kind of the prominent, the protocol developers, the most reputable ones, the more active developers have to be on board, right? And this fork had major opposition across the developer community on technical grounds, fundamental technical grounds, and that was also ignored, right? And so if you go back to the Bitcoin Cash war, you could have argued that there was significant economic weight on the other side, except that it was on the hands of exchanges and this corporate elite that tried to sort of push SegWit 2x, and then Bitcoin Cash also had a plenty of economic weight in the sense that Roger Ver was basically one of the biggest whales in the industry, VC of probably half of the Bitcoin companies at the time. But obviously, Bitcoin Core also had economic weight and had the technical development community behind them, and that's, I think, why we won that. So it isn't just a proof of stake system, right? I think that's the key point. It's not a proof of stake system. There has to be like fundamental truth, and the core developer community was very clear that this sort of filter path was the wrong path.
Hubby, you had your hand up.
Yeah, hey guys. Yeah, great stuff there. At the end of the day, first thing, the process worked for many of us, and I came in right after the previous major wars in 2017. This is the first real iteration of sort of a contentious BIP to come through, and I'm going back and looking through. What should have been just an idea presented at the Commons. Let's have this idea come out. And let's debate it on its merit, debate it on truthful figures, turned into this mudslinging character assassination that I had not recognized. And what started as, okay, we have this idea for a BIP, that initially thought would stop spam. And I speak for many of the non-technical plebs here, I believe, when, spam is bad. Oh my God, that's even worse. We cannot, that's very bad. And that's sort of how was just sort of left. And it was only upon, wait a second, let's look into this more. Does it really stop the spam? Well, no, it just makes it harder. It's just the initial prunable spam. That only affects 40% of block, but there's still work. It's a little bit harder, but yeah, it can still, there's not only workarounds, but it doesn't solve the problem because it does cause UTX bloat. Well, you see, that right there is the first inkling that something is wrong. That truthful part of it, which is quite important, was never really put out. Initially it was, if you're not on our side, you are for spam and you are into pedophilia. Once it crossed that line, man, everything is off there. And everyone is coming across that is new. They don't really understand what the hell is going on. They just know they don't like spam. But as you go down and get closer, the entire time, what were we at? 1%, 2% miner signaling rate? And you get these things, you got to go in and now Now you find out, well, not, we're at 20%. We've got these nodes. And everyone's like, that 20% number was just taken as gospel. And it's as you get closer and you get the VP of dev, for ocean mining himself to come out and say, look, I got this trawler thing. The actual number is closer to 6%. The other ones are public listening nodes. So all of these facts that are being put out to try to sway opinion, you find out aren't really true. And then it becomes emotional. Okay, because everyone's tied up in this. And Shinobi, Bitcoin is not about you. It became about a small contingent of people that were rallying up this, what you found out was fake support. And it was all hidden under this magic word. And it's not Beetlejuice. What is the magic word? Game theory. You're looking around, wait, you got 2% and 6%? What the hell's going to happen? Well, game theory.
No?
Game theory is going to happen. They're going to flip the bit and boom, game theory, the magic. You know what surprised me? That I was surprised that everyone was surprised because they got punched in the mouth and within 2 blocks it was game over. And now all of a sudden you got this crazy commander on a runaway train heading towards a cliff, and now people are looking around like, wait a second, I came here for the spam. What do you mean you're going to hard fork? So we got here more of a social thing, what should have been just a thing of ideas where people came in and respectfully talked about the truth of the matter. And this is how we ended up where we are, man.
I think Ozzy might have been less crazy, though. Speaking of crazy trains.
Yeah, the goalposts kept moving so much. It reminded me of like the whole vaccine narrative. How fast it was moving. Oh, it's going to stop the vaccine. And then it's like, well, it doesn't really stop it, but you have to get a booster. It was like the whole thing. The narrative just kept moving and moving and moving. It was insane. It was impossible to fight against it with truth.
Their pedo comment was similar to like, you're killing grandma, or, you just want to, it's like this most hyperbolic thing.
I want to.
I saw
ask a question from the audience
underneath the bleachers. Are you going to listen to that guy?
I want to ask a question that came in from the audience because I think it's a valid one. And Neil, I will ask you first, and then Dave, you will get the same question. But do you believe that Luke, Mechanic, and everyone else acted in an honest manner on the fundamental technical aspects of how Bitcoin works in retrospect?
I mean, the thing that I was trying to tell everybody is like, I don't care about the people. I don't care what's in Luke's head, what's in Mechanic, like that. None of that stuff matters. I was making decisions based on a set of protocol rules compared to another, and which one I thought was a better tool for me. Like, I'm just always trying to push all the bullshit aside. Like, what is this tool that is Bitcoin that I use to fight fiat and central banking? Like, I'm going to war. What tool do I pick up? And that's all I do. Like, yes, I'm a philosopher. I'm not, I don't do all this. I don't care about most of the stuff other people care about. And I understand that. That's just me. I can only speak for myself. So like, as to what's inside their head and their intentions and all that stuff, human beings are not equipped to judge that. So I don't even consider that. Like, that's not a dodging of the question. That's just saying, like, I literally don't give a fuck what they were doing or why. These protocol rules came before me. I had a choice between door A or door B. And it's just like, well, which one am I as a sovereign participant of this network going to walk through? And I'm going to make my choice. And I literally don't give a shit what anybody else in the world does for that sense. Like, I walked through the door, no one else followed. And that's that. I don't know what else to say. 110 didn't achieve its its goal of tightening the protocol rules. So I accept that, like, take it on the chin, whatever, but like, that doesn't change that. So I don't know if that answers the question.
Before, I just have a question for you, follow up. Did you read the white paper?
Yes.
That's all. D.
Hey, what's up? Yeah, thanks for having me. I think like the way that we got here is kind of unfortunate because for so many years we've had influencers, if you will, saying run a node, like prepare for battle, prepare for war, run a node. Like Jimmy Song has written about the danger of standing armies, and I think that's what this is. So we've overstated the importance of running a node, and we've confused folks by telling them that their node matters, like one node, one vote. But it's so much more nuanced than that. It's not a democracy. Running a node doesn't really do anything. So this whole kind of cliche of my node, my rules, it actually is, unfortunately, or fortunately for Bitcoin, so much more meaningless than people have been led to believe. So for so many years, it's like we instilled into people this idea that your node is what determines the rules of Bitcoin, and it actually doesn't work that way. And I mean, hopefully some of the folks realize that over the course of the last couple of days, but unfortunately, a lot of people still don't get it.
Let me say something real quick about the framing on this too. We were talking about total nodes, and then you see framing of look at all the people that have knots now. And what they would do is put this magic number at 20%, but they would break down Bitcoin Core by version against them, not total core, just then by version, to skew numbers, to skew support. And I think that is an issue.
Yeah, and this, sorry, real quick, and this answers the question whether Mechanic and Crater were genuine or not, and they obviously were not.
But even if like 99% of the quote unquote nodes were knots, it would still be a meaningless metric, and these folks do not understand that.
Well, I think maybe the reason is because it more cleanly mapped to the economic weights back in the day, like early on, first few years. But as the network expanded, like when I used to buy Bitcoin, the first Bitcoin I bought was bought my buddy like a posh bagel, like lunch. And, the only people really buying Bitcoin were people who were running nodes, super, super into it, And so it more cleanly translated to the economic influence and weight. And exchanges were smaller, so they had less sort of weight back then. But as you onboarded millions of people, tens of millions, hundreds of millions, it isn't the same clean sort of rough, thing. It's orders of magnitude different. So yeah, I think they're stuck in that belief that there's only like 10,000 people in the network, and we all happen to be buying Bitcoin, we all happen to be running nodes, and it's just us chickens. It's like it's not anymore. It's so much bigger, and I think that's probably what's skewing it.
And that's a good point. But it's like you can spin up a node, you can spin up 1 million nodes, you can spin up 1 trillion nodes. Like it doesn't do anything. And the people who followed this off a cliff were not technical to understand that basic concept.
Yeah, I think another thing that's a little bit deceiving is when Satoshi wrote about like one CPU or one voter, that sort of analogy. It's helpful to remember that we weren't very far into the concept of multi-core CPUs and ASICs. We didn't have really that yet materialized. So his statement wasn't actually like one node, one vote at all. It was more like he was more talking about hash power. Like,
also mining.
It was like, how much hash power do you have? And everyone at the time, if you had a computer, it was like a single core machine. So it's like, are you running a node? Are you running it on several laptops? And it's just taken really out of context, I think, in a lot of ways nowadays.
What's funny too about the white paper is it keeps talking about the longest chain, as if having more blocks means anything, which of course it doesn't. And in fact, I didn't realize this until more recently that longest chain was actually literal in the white paper. I always assumed that was a metaphor for the heaviest chain. It turns out it wasn't, because in the original implementation of Bitcoin, there was a bug such that it really was looking at the longest chain and not looking for the most chain work, which of course that was caught pretty early on and patched. But people are going to be so confused that they think like even blocks matter at this point, because you can have a lot of blocks with a proof of work change that also mean absolutely fucking nothing.
Yeah, it was a rare sort of obvious oversight. I was like, that it was coded that way, because it's like it makes it really, you know what I mean? Like chain weight, obviously difficulty weight. Like it's just crazy that even was ever that.
Well, yeah, and because it's so obvious, I just assumed that it was a metaphor, and someone had to correct me. They were like, "Do you know that was actually how it was implemented. I was like, oh shit, okay, cool. But again, patched.
Juan, you've waited a while, and then Tone, it'll go to you after. Unless, Juan, we lost you, then Tone, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. No, I got it. So I just wanted to ask a quick question to Dave and Neil. Are you guys aware that the blockchain data and the index data are encrypted at rest on your node and only decrypted as needed when the computer is trying to verify a transaction or something like that?
Do you mean XORed one, or do you mean encrypted?
Well, I'm saying encrypted, but I mean XOR, yeah. It's a kind of encryption. It's like a sorting mechanism that makes it. So
Yeah. For sure.
So Neil was aware of it. How about you, Dave?
What's your point?
I'm just asking a question. So were you not aware of that?
I'm just asking you what's the point of the question.
Why are you so defensive, bro? I mean, my point is that I think actually the most persuasive argument from the not side of things, let's say, was that you were basically hosting potentially illegal images in your computer. And I think, like, I've run some tests on this, and like premium open source 20-year-old software designed to scrape images off of raw data from hard drives can't find anything on either the index or the blockchain data. And if you apply it to specific templates of spam, of image spam on Bitcoin, you also can't find anything, right? You need like very, very custom software and very, very custom work. And in order to extract this sort of data and compile it, right? And I think most people probably aren't aware of this. Most not. I wonder if how many not people are aware that their node, like if you scanned their hard drive node for arbitrary data, you wouldn't find anything, right? But I feel like that was the emotional sort of hack that actually activated this fork, and I suspect it was just lack of sort of technical understanding, and it seems like Dave was not aware of it.
Yeah, I understand that you're doing the typical, you're not technical enough FUD, and that's fine. You can do that. I mean, we've heard that 3,000 trillion times now. But the point now is...
Why are you so defensive, bro? Just answer the question.
Dave, to be honest with you, you've come here and you have not answered questions. You've kind of trolled us. You post things in the nest that are, frankly, I'm going to keep deleting. If you continue to be a bad actor in this space, I will remove you from this space and you will not be invited back to speak. If you would like to contribute to the conversation, you are welcome to.
Sure, dude. It's up to you. I mean, if you don't want me here, it's fine.
Well, thank you for your time then. Tone, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I wanted to add to what D++ was saying about nodes. I was trying to pin something in the nest, but for some reason I wasn't able to do that. Maybe Twitter changed how, or X changed how that's done. I wrote up this whole blog post on nodes. I will say that running a node is really, really important for you to validate your own transactions. That's the distinction. So when myself or D++ are saying running a node is irrelevant, it's irrelevant from the point of view that just because you're on a node, you have a vote on the future of Bitcoin code changes. In that point of view, your node has very little relevance. I'm not going to say it's zero, but the less economic weight you pull, the less relevance you have. Now, as far as validating your own transactions and providing privacy and security for your own Bitcoin, a node is absolutely critical and necessary, and every person should run a node. But this is where you need to understand the limits and the power of the nodes. And I also, a little while ago, tried to provide an example saying that tomorrow, Elon Musk can push out a change to every Tesla remotely, turning every Tesla into a Bitcoin node. This would be very easy for him to do. There's 10 million Teslas on the road. We can have 10 million Bitcoin nodes by end of year. Every Tesla could provide a wallet storing Bitcoin for people. as a Tesla owner, you could be sovereign. This could be your own node, not Elon Musk's node. You can have the key to this node that is sitting inside your Tesla. All it needs is 2 terabytes of storage, and you can store the entire history of the Bitcoin blockchain. That does not mean that, like now, Tesla nodes is like 99.9% of the network, but they're still not going to get to push out a code change. It's still going to come down to your economic weight. So the number of nodes really doesn't matter.
Tone, I managed to put what you sent me in the nest. Neil, go ahead, and then Frank, welcome to the stage. We'll go to you after.
Yeah, I just wanted to give you my perspective to answer Juan's questions. Like, yeah, I understand that the data arbitrary data can always get on the chain, and that there's nothing you can do to stop it. For me, it's always been the question of it fits at chips, and that the idea of should we have envelopes or boxes? Like what fits? How do we define fits as a protocol? I've never had a need for op return or taproot or any of these other, like I looked at all my transactions and I said, okay, well, does this even affect me? Like, would this do anything to how I transact on the network? And the answer was no. So it's like, okay, well, what are the trade-offs? These are 2 different sets of protocol rules. So which one is better? And the argument that I kept coming back to was, the shape of the data, how it goes into the chain is like, there's a defensibility. It hardens the chain in the sense that it constricts the parameters of which any attacker could operate in. And it's just, when I kept asking, so it's like whether that threat is, just particular today or in principle, for the end of time, I'm asking, what's the trade-off? What do I gain from, enforcing boxes instead of envelopes? And no one can tell me the boxes are better for the chain because X, Y, or Z. There was no benefit articulated to me, like how it served my interest, how I use Bitcoin as money, for me to use a box versus an envelope. So for me, the trade-off was I'm trading potential defensibility for nothing, and that's just like not a rational choice for me. So I don't know if that addresses your question of the data. Like, yes, I understand it's encrypted. Yes, I understand people will always be able to put stuff on there and in clever ways and do all these crazy things. But it's like, to me, that didn't sway me or move the needle at all, because the shape matters. The shape is the form, is the function. Like, you put data on the chain for a reason. Like, you are impressing your telos, your purpose into that data. So like that idea that data is just data isn't true, because a person is putting it into the chain. Like, it's philosophically absurd to divorce the purpose, from the action. And every bit of data that goes on the chain is done so because a human took action to do that. And it's just like, I can't divorce that purpose from the action.
Right. I just want to respond real quick, because I think it's really interesting the way you talk about it. And I think maybe in your case specifically, and perhaps other people that sort of followed, let's say, your commentary on it, it came from like from a sort of civic duty kind of perspective, from a sort of, my node, my vote kind of perspective. And I think all those things are good things in principle. And I think I actually appreciate that you had that sort of conviction to say, hey, I'm gonna make there's a vote, and I'm gonna weigh the odds and take a stand. But I think that's sort of where it breaks apart, is that Bitcoin, like when you have a node, you literally have the history of every single transaction that's ever happened in Bitcoin history, not just your own, but all of them, right? So it's kind of like you have all of history in the node, right? And that means that when you break out of consensus, obviously now, right? I mean, I think it's obvious after the fork, and that was the big lesson that a lot of people took, hopefully, or should take. But like, once you break out of consensus, you leave the economy, right? You leave Bitcoin, right? And so you kind of have to the part of the game is kind of staying in consensus, right? The reason there's 10 million shitcoins, most of them failed, is because a bunch of people decided not to stay in consensus or failed to change consensus. But yeah, I mean, Bitcoin is anyway. Appreciate your thoughts, man.
Frank, I want to welcome you to the stage and let you contribute.
Thank you, Q. Just want to say thank you for doing this. You got the right demeanor to do this, and this has been a really nice conversation to come in on, given what the conversations leading up to this fork have been like. And I want to give a massive shout out to Neil. I think coming to a stage like this with a bunch of seasoned Bitcoiners and sharing what you didn't understand and how difficult some of this is to understand and the way you were approaching it just from your perspective. It's really difficult to do. I say this as a former teacher that would often encourage their students to speak up and to share what they didn't understand. And I think it's impressive what you're doing, and I think it's really important. And I hope that other people from the BIP110 world who, much like yourself, really did believe they were doing the right thing, come to similar conclusions that you came to. And there was a question that Q asked about whether or not Crater and the likes of Crater and Luke were what's the word, believable. And I think Publord spoke to this a little bit as well. And I listened to the most recent interview that Crater, or the recent interview that Crater did with Natalie a few days before the fork happened. And I thought it was really interesting. He sort of weaved untruths in with truths. Like he said something that he had to know was incorrect, like the op return limit is about the size of an emoji can fit into the op return. An emoji is about 3 bytes, whereas the op return limit before it was expanded is 83 bytes. So I mean, this is not true. I would imagine he knew that it was not true. And there's also plenty of things like simple proof. There's an organization that puts voting documents from the presidential election in Venezuela and even some of the votes from voting documents from the recent election we had in the United States onto the blockchain. And these are PDFs, and this was fairly common knowledge. So I think one of the things that I wanted to say to Neil and to anybody else from the BIP110 crowd that's here, and it's something that I teach. I teach in a program for African women called Bitcoin Dada. And I teach, one of the things I say to those women when I get started is, this is a tremendously empowering technology, but it also comes with a tremendous amount of responsibility in that you have to commit to becoming a lifelong learner and to constantly checking the things that you're learning. Because oftentimes you kind of fall in love with your podcaster or wherever you're getting most of your information, and you're not double checking what's being said. And I think one of the things to keep in mind with all of this, maybe Matt Crater really did think that an emoji was the size of the op return or whatever. Maybe so, but not everybody knows everything about Bitcoin. This is one of the big things that I think is really important to understand, is that maybe he really did think he was telling the truth. And a lot of the things that he did mention in that interview, I was actually kind of impressed with some of his historical knowledge and things like that. But when the feeling, my stomach kind of turned as I was listening, because I was like, I see what he's doing here. What I think he's doing here is mixing in some of this knowledge that he has, which some of it is true, with these untruths and the untruths that he's sort of like weaving his way into. They're framed around all these other truths, and it felt so dangerous to me because it was just this weird thing where it's like, well, he's right here, he's not right over here. And I think Neil, based on what I heard for the little bit of time that I've been here, that was confusing to you, to a lot of people like you. And again, just want to commend you for coming here and saying that. And I think to the people that were saying, like, obviously the BIP110 people that, I think, Wicked, you've been saying this a lot and I appreciate it. Those who were genuinely confused and who genuinely felt they were doing the right thing, you're always welcome back to this social layer. Bitcoin will humble you. You have to let it humble you, though. It has humbled me many, many a time. I've taken my blows over the 8 years that I've been in this space and studying this space. But I think it's really important to come here, to speak up, to say what you didn't get, because I think that sets an example for others to kind of leave their ego at the door, say, hey, I didn't totally get it, but I'm here to learn more. Really important. Just want to commend you, and great job moderating, Q. Really appreciate it.
I swear I didn't pay Frank to come up and flame me, but thank you very much, brother. Bubby, you've waited patiently. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. There's a great, educational experience out of this whole process. Is knowing what you don't know, for one, how you educate yourself, and when I'm looking at this thing, the next time I see a BIP come across the screen is all right, does this thing actually solve the problem it says it's going to solve? Question one, and you got to dive in. This is what we just found out, right? People went in, thought they had, the term like a wallet, and finding out what entropy is. A lot of people, you just took a lot of things for granted. And I'm looking through here, and this first stuff came out about core, and I hear about all these like consensus rules, and a lot of people come in, well, yeah, they're just rules. No, actually, that's the law. You're thinking of a policy. And even terms matter here. And you got to dig deep, and I'm finding out, wait a second. So the BIP, what does it do? Is it policy change? And I think it was like Mr. Hoddle and even Samson came in. Well, no, that core stuff, that's just a policy. You don't have to run it. You can run your own. You can do all this. The BIP is going to have 7 different consensus rules changes with it, actual rule changes. And what I'm getting to here is like when you hear D++ and Tone talk about, well, yeah, you can have a node, but the importance of the node is for you. It's not a one node, one vote. And most people are going around believing that, yeah, it's just purely the number of nodes. And when you can see and people can frame it, you can frame it as, hey, listen, when we started 2 months ago, we were at 5%. Now we're at 20. And then you just draw a line straight up. And then we're at 100%, and you're on the side of goodness and purity and victory. All of this framing, man, was wrong. And yeah, that some of us is on us. And look, at the end of the day, a lot of the spam and stuff in there, you don't want it, but it's like free speech or anything else. I may not like what you say, and I have my own individual thing I get out of Bitcoin, but I'll defend your right to say it. And it was funny to see the strange bedfellows made out of this in spaces. When I got guys like with ordinals and inscriptions, I thought it was a bunch of crap. Now I'm trying to have to defend their side on some of this stuff. And let's get down to it, man. Let's educate ourselves on the rules, on the laws, how the process works for a reason. Because if that was truly the case, all you need is a well-funded, one charismatic leader and buy a bunch of nodes. And that's absolutely not what we want here. So there we go.
Again, just because I'm the non-technical dummy on this stage, I'm going to ask D, Daniel, Shinobi, Tone. You guys have talked about this. Can we simplify the idea that and the concept that just because you run a node, that doesn't give you the equal weight of the miners, nor does it give you the equal weight of the exchanges, as you brought up, Tone. But how do we actually try to build consensus in Bitcoin? And how can we better understand what running a node does and contributes?
Shinobi, you want to go first, or I'll go?
Can you repeat that, Q? I was kind of half zoned out.
No, all good. Essentially, can you guys give me, a non-technical person, just talk to me, what running a node actually does as far as contributing to the network, if it is not just as simple as one node, one vote?
Fuck what it contributes to the network. That's kind of irrelevant. The only thing that a node does to do you any good is be your own personal counterfeit detector. When you receive Bitcoin, you can be 100% sure that's real Bitcoin. Nobody's pulling some shenanigans or showing you some forged transaction that's invalid. You are definitively positive. As far as what the node can do to help the network, literally pretty much nothing except just spreading the bandwidth cost around for new nodes bootstrapping and shit by being another node. That's really pretty much it.
Yeah, I want to add a little bit to that bootstrapping part. The less nodes there are in the world, bootstrapping, the history of the Bitcoin transactions, the more relevant that node is. There is no exact number, but once there are 100 high bandwidth nodes with the entire blockchain in those nodes that are reachable by the whole world, adding 101st will make very little difference. It's like file sharing, like back in the day. Once 100 people are sharing a song, that's it. Having 1,000 people share that song, you're not going to download that song any faster. But if only 3 people are sharing the song, now you're going to struggle a little bit to download that song. And also, you may not trust it. So that's the additional minor advantage to the world
There is
by running a node.
there is a little caveat though. As the chain grows, a lot of these hard drives are not, they're staying the same, right? So a lot of these nodes are going to start pruning, and some hard drives are going to be bigger, some hard drives are going to be smaller. But you could be a reachable node, but bootstrapping, but it doesn't mean you're bootstrapping from Genesis.
The point though that like Tone is making though is like once you achieve like a baseline, you're not really adding much benefit, because that's enough for new nodes to come on, and then those new nodes to help bootstrap more new nodes if there is really like a crazy like.
No, I agree. What I'm saying though is that in 2015, the entire blockchain and every single person that was reachable had the entire blockchain, right? They didn't really prune it. But now more and more people are starting to prune their nodes because they don't have the space. So the more people that are coming online now, I think it's more important because not everyone is going to be bootstrapping from Genesis. Like I'm not anymore, right? Like or at least I'm not. I don't know what date I have it set at, but I'm reachable, but I'm not bootstrapping from Genesis.
Damn, Hoddle, I didn't know you couldn't afford a 2 terabyte hard drive. That's kind of sad.
No, it's not that. I mean, I could. I just have no reason. Like, I don't care about bootstrapping new nodes. I use a node, exactly what Shinobi said, to verify my Bitcoin transactions. I use a node to receive Bitcoin. I wouldn't even call me that much of an economic node, because before I used to have a bunch of friends and family connected to my node when they receive Bitcoin. I'm not doing that anymore. So you could say a node of economic node matters when there's consensus questions. Like that's where economic nodes like shine. But for reachable nodes, I think the more people that are reachable, the better, because we're in a place where the chain is going to continue to grow, and people aren't going to be. It's not that they can't afford to upgrade their hard drive; they're just lazy. They're not going to go out of their way and get a new hard drive just because they're running a Bitcoin node, unless they have a business, unless they're running Lightning, something like that. So I think that number becomes more relevant as the chain continues to grow.
Probably, but I guarantee you there is at least 10 people on this space alone that have it set to Genesis.
I'm not worried about people jumping on the network and not finding a peer that will help them bootstrap. We have more than enough of that.
I do think also just this conversation around nodes, I think is very timely and important, not only because of what's happened with BIP110, but also what we saw. Now we're approaching 2 weeks, about 10 days since the whole Coldcard fiasco. I guess my question for anyone on this stage really is like, at what point do we, and I believe actually Shinobi, it was you who taught me this years ago, this idea of like, we are the 20% of the 80-20. Like we are the core users. We are the early adopters. We will understand the tech. But as we grow towards mass adoption and hyper Bitcoinization, like the average person will not run a node. I think that's something that like we have to kind of come to terms with and accept. As much as we at Bitcoin Well, and I myself am a self-custody advocate, I think there will be a form of collaborative custody that will naturally come up. But how do we offset those things while continuing to maintain what Bitcoin is meant to be, which is money?
I mean, man, like, it's not really the most critical thing in the universe that every single Bitcoin user runs a node. It's critical that they are able to, if they want to, or if they need to. Like, that is really the critical, important thing to maintain. But yeah, most people are going to be just fine not doing that. Like the guy who's going paycheck to paycheck in a Bitcoin world and barely has $500 at any given time, he doesn't need to run a fucking node. Like, what the fuck does he need to run a node for?
Yeah, that's a great point, Shinobi, and I want to add to that a little bit. I completely agree with Shinobi that you don't have to run a node, and I completely agree that it should be accessible to run a node. But the other talking point that the BIP110 side was doing was that it needs to be cheap to run a node. Well, at the same time, everyone seems to be okay with buying a $250 cold storage device, right? And somehow, if it costs you more than $50 to set up a full node because there's a little extra data on it, that is somehow unreasonable. Well, if you are able to afford a $250 storage device, you should be able to it's perfectly reasonable if setting up your node costs a little more time and a little more money than your storage solution. Because if you don't have that much Bitcoin that needs a $200 storage solution, then you don't really need to run a node anyway. So you kind of have to weigh pros and cons. And also, if you're going to run a node, you need an internet connection. Internet connection costs people, some money as well, right? Like in the West, it's like $1,000 a year to have decent internet. Maybe in some third world countries, it's cheaper.
Where are you getting your internet?
Really quick though, Tone, like this is a myth that fucking node hardware is
$50 a month for our home?
Oh, he just glitched out. Sorry.
Well, wait, no, how much is your internet bill at home, right? Because as far as I know, it's like $50-$60 a month at least.
No, but I wanted to slash this myth of like the expensive node. Like your average user does not need a whole copy of the blockchain. They don't need all the indexes. They can just run a pruned node and use it as a wallet. You can get a $70 piece of junk like Lenovo ThinkCentre off eBay right now, and that will run a prune node just fine, like right there as it is. Like a node is dirt cheap if you just don't listen to a bunch of cultist, like fucking lunatics.
What I don't understand about this run a node thing is unless you're running a Lightning node, you don't need a separate box. You can run a prune node on your daily driver. Like, I don't know why people don't understand that, because it doesn't have to always be synced up. It doesn't have to always be online. I mean, in the white paper, Satoshi even says, like, you can leave and come back. Now, if you're running a Lightning node, of course, you want like 99+% uptime because it is important that that device is always on. But most node runners aren't also running Lightning infrastructure.
I want to just quickly, shamelessly plug, because we are talking about $250 hardware wallets, but Zach, who is on the Bitcoin Well handle, will be hosting a deep dive with Alex Walls on Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern to go over entropy and randomness and why it matters for your keys. I pinned it to the top as well, so if that is of interest to anyone in the audience, please feel free to go over and sign up. I do want to wind this down. I do have a job. I do need to make money for Bitcoin Well. As much as I love this conversation, and we will do something like this again in the near future, I want to turn it over to our awesome panel who is left for any final thoughts, words, mic drops that they want to leave the audience and listeners with.
I'll just say that like running a node is sort of in a quantum superposition such that it both matters and it doesn't at the same time.
It's a self-organizing system. Like you just do things, and those cumulative interactions with other people doing things form a cohesive system. But no single participant has any real power on their own. Like nobody can just control things. You have to convince all the individual like components of that system that matter to also do something. And it has to be synchronous and facilitating like a reorganization around that.
I'll just say that the main reason you want to run a node is probably for privacy reasons, because that way you're not asking some wallets backend what your balance is. Every time you check your transaction on a mobile wallet, you're sending your public address to a server, and that server is checking a Bitcoin node, right? So the main reason to run a node is actually so you don't send your Bitcoin public your value data, money data to some third party. And also you get the confidence that nobody's cheating and creating Bitcoin out of thin air, right? So you actually verify the supply if you have a node that's been synced. Those are the main reasons. Beyond that, in like the rare occurrence that there's some sort of contentious consensus fork you can signal consensus, but you can't change consensus. You can only signal consensus that already exists. And I wrote an article, it's on Bitcoin Magazine, about nodes.
I'd just say every action's to an end, and really focus on the why.
Yeah, and I explained all of that in the pinned tweet. So if, it's up in the nest on nodes and their limitations and their power. I sent that out like 3 weeks ago or something.
I would just like to close this out with a little poem I wrote today after this weekend. It goes like this. Doomer Boomer flipped the bit, drinking his shake of whey. Along came a split that forked off chain and frightened Doomer Boomer away. Anybody who is into BIP110 and you are waking up this week and realizing like what's going on and you don't want to fork off Bitcoin, please don't. Like this, this is way too important, and I think we've all learned a lot. And don't be the person that gives up this amazing gift that is Bitcoin with 17 years of work behind it.
I disagree. I think they should fork off. Bye, bitches.
Thank you all for coming, joining, listening, participating. I hope that this was some semblance of a respectful discourse, dialogue, and debate. I know it got contentious at times. Neil, you are the last man standing on that side, and I do appreciate your patience and willingness to enter the lion's den. As a reminder, please stop buying Bitcoin at custodial exchanges. Go over to bitcoinwell.com, sign up, create an account. This is the only non-custodial exchange available in the US. You can buy Bitcoin and send it straight to your cold storage wallet. Use promo code podcast and you'll get additional points to earn free Bitcoin with. Thank you all, and we'll be back very, very soon.